Xiao Ran shot up in bed, gasping for breath, cold sweat rolling down his forehead. He'd had an incredibly vivid dream. In the dream, a relentless hailstorm had swept the globe. The hailstones, as large as ping-pong balls, shattered ordinary windows with ease, car windshields included. A dense fog was so thick that almost no one could venture out, and temperatures plummeted. While not cold enough to turn people into ice sculptures, it dropped to around -10 degrees Celsius. And this was in June. By the fourth day, the power grid collapsed. Many froze to death overnight. To make matters worse, the hail was poisonous. Any plant life touched by the melted hail withered instantly, and water sources became contaminated. A small sip caused violent vomiting and diarrhea, excruciating pain. A large amount was instantly fatal. Everyone was trapped, their supplies dwindling. When food and clean water ran out, the most horrifying thing happened: cannibalism. But Xiao Ran never imagined he'd be ambushed by his wife's family, dismembered alive. No, this wasn't a dream. Xiao Ran clutched his head. The 15 days of the apocalypse felt too real, so real he could recall every single second, especially the dismemberment. That searing, bone-deep pain was absolutely real. There's only one possibility. I've been reborn. The date is... He found his phone. The date on it was clearly March 1 SD. When did the apocalypse start? June 1st. He remembered it perfectly. He planned to take his son to the amusement park that day. But just as they stepped out, the hail started. He'd even been hit by one, the pain making him question his very existence. Meaning, there were exactly 3 months until the cataclysm. I need to make money, gather enough food and supplies to last a lifetime, and build an apocalypse-proof shelter, one that can withstand the hail and fend off looters. How to get money? Simple. Because Xiao Ran was reborn, he had precise knowledge of the stock market's movements for the next 3 months. Analyzing market trends and following stocks was his hobby. But where would the initial capital come from? The lottery. He clearly remembered the winning numbers for the next draw. He bought a 2 yuan ticket back then and matched 5 numbers. So, it left a deep impression. The jackpot had reached 5 billion. Buying 100 tickets would secure him the maximum prize. With the capital secured and the trajectory of most good stocks clear in his mind, making money would be easy, right? But the first thing is divorce. Xiao Ran's eyes turned icy. Not only had his wife's family cannibalized him in his past life, but his wife had also revealed a huge secret just before he died. His son wasn't his biological child. Bitch! Xiao Ran clenched his fists, his eyes filled with a crazed light. He wanted revenge. He would get his vengeance. I won't let your family die easily. Xiao Ran was an orphan who, through his own hard work, got into university and landed a good job. It was then, through an introduction, that he met his wife, Zhengwan. She was a nurse, sweet-looking, with recently retired parents who had a modest pension and a younger brother still in college. They dated for a while, and their relationship quickly intensified. Persuaded by Zhengwan's soft pleas, Xiao Ran agreed to marry into her family, becoming their live-in son-in-law. Being an orphan, continuing the family line wasn't his top priority. He craved the warmth of a family more. After marrying, though his wife's attitude suddenly cooled, and his parents-in-law and brother-in-law treated him even worse, he was so immersed in the joy of soon having his own child that he selectively ignored it. After his son was born, he took on all the work without complaint. Nightly diaper changes, preparing formula, he did it all himself. In the Zheng family, he was a son-in-law in name, but a servant in reality. And the most ridiculous part? He had a hand over his entire salary, receiving a pitiful 200 yuan in allowance each month. And his brother-in-law, Zheng Gang, he had been a big spender during his studies. After graduating, he was all ambition, but no skill, hopping between jobs he never held for long. Yet he still frequently took his girlfriend to hotels and fancy restaurants. Now Xiao Ran knew whose money Zheng Gang had been using. His. But what enraged Xiao Ran the most was that the son he had raised for 3 years, pouring all his heart into, wasn't even his. He was just a pitiful, laughable cuckold. The wealth I accumulate from now on, you won't touch a single cent of it. The supplies I hoard, you'll only get to watch. I won't even spare you a crumb of bread, and I will kill you all in the cruelest way possible. Xiao Ran got out of bed. Just as he was about to put on his shoes, he froze. He discovered his mind was connected to a space, vast and boundless. Is this a pocket dimension? With a thought, the phone in his hand vanished. Through his mind, he could see it clearly, now inside the pocket dimension. Then, with another thought, the phone reappeared in his hand. Xiao Ran's jaw dropped. Not only was I reborn from the apocalypse, but I also gained a special ability. Now, How many supplies can I hoard? Xiao Ran was incredibly excited. This solved a major problem for his shelter. No need to dedicate a large area for storage. Plus, food needed to be preserved, meaning strict control over warehouse temperature and humidity. Think of how much this would simplify the design and construction. The appearance of this ability further proves it wasn't a dream. Xiao Ran's expression firmed with determination. He gathered himself, took what he needed, walked to the door, and yanked it open. What time is it? You finally decided to get up. His father-in-law, Zheng Yujun, almost threw the teacup in his hand, snarling, "Hurry up and do the dishes and make breakfast." Xiao Ran remembered. He'd felt a headache this morning, called in sick to work, and had told Zhengwan. But stepping out to this treatment from Zheng Yujun made Xiao Ran feel as if he were reliving the moments before his death. Zheng Yujun with a cleaver, dismembering him piece by piece. He stared icily at Zheng Yujun, radiating killing intent, wishing he could slaughter this old bastard right then and there. But he couldn't be impulsive. Killing someone now meant paying with his own life. Besides, a single slash to kill the old bastard would be letting him off too easily. Stared down by Xiao Ran like that, Zheng Yujun's bravado faltered. His gaze was terrifying, as if he might grab a knife and kill him the next second. He immediately flew into a rage from shame, slamming the table. "Rebellion! Rebellion! You little bastard, you've grown bold, daring to glare at me." Xiao Ran walked over and, smack, slapped the old man across the face. The slap was filled with his fury, sending the old man sprawling onto the table. Just then, his mother-in-law, Lin Meiying, came out holding her grandson. Seeing this, she shrieked, startling the child, who burst into tears. Before, Xiao Ran had doted on his son the most. Now, seeing him only filled him with anger and disgust. True, the boy didn't resemble him, but he'd never suspected, just assuming his wife's genes were strong and the son took after her. The result, he'd been wearing a bright green hat. Pathetic, laughable. An honest man, once provoked, is very dangerous. Xiao Ran walked over, snipped a lock of the child's hair with scissors, gave a cold smile, and slammed the door as he left. Just 10 minutes later, the phone rang. Xiao Ran answered. Zheng Wan's roar immediately came through the receiver. "Xiao Ran, are you insane? How dare you hit my dad? Divorce." Xiao Ran ignored her, coldly spitting out the single word. The person on the other end was stunned for a moment. After a while, Zheng Wan's even louder roar came through. "Xiao Ran, what the hell are you doing? Just you wait. See how I deal with you when I get off work." Xiao Ran remained calm, saying flatly, "To the Civil Affairs Bureau. Right now. I've already got the household register, marriage certificate, and our ID cards." Xiao Ran, Zhengwan shrieked again, then, surprisingly, calmed down. "Don't be rash. A divorce isn't something you can just decide on your own. Don't you care about Xiao Jie anymore?" Xiao Jie was Xiao Ran's son, named Zheng Jie. Of course, he was a bastard. Xiao Ran sneered. "How long did you think you could fool me? Zheng Jie isn't my son. He's your illegitimate child with Zhang Zihao. You were in such a hurry to marry me back then because you were already pregnant with Zhang Zihao's kid." "You? How do you know?" Zheng Wan's voice trembled. "Never mind how I know. Get to the Civil Affairs Bureau now, or I'll go to the hospital and cause a huge scene, exposing your affair with Zhang Zihao. Let's see how you handle that," Xiao Ran said coolly. He was confident Zheng Wan would yield. Sure enough, Zheng Wan hesitated for only a moment before saying, "Fine, I'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau." Back then, she had rushed to marry Xiao Ran primarily to avoid the scandal of having a child out of wedlock. Secondly, it was to protect Zhang Zihao's reputation. And thirdly, well, Xiao Ran was just too easy to control, like adding a free nanny to the household. A nanny who even handed over his entire salary. Now that her son was already 3 years old, she no longer had to worry about her reputation. It was just a shame to lose Xiao Ran, the nanny who surrendered his paycheck. Xiao Ran took the subway to the Civil Affairs Bureau, surprised to find Zheng Wan had arrived even faster. She was already waiting for him at the entrance. The woman was 27, about 160 centimeters, 5 feet 3 inches tall, with a sweet face, big eyes, and her hair in a ponytail. Her looks were a solid 7 out of 10. Her figure, however, was lacking. She was rather flat-chested, an A-cup at most. She stared at Xiao Ran with a mixture of suspicion and disbelief, still shocked and horrified at how he'd found out the truth. Little did she know, she herself had told him everything in a past life. Xiao Ran had been on the verge of death then, so she naturally hadn't worried about him revealing her secrets. "Xiao Ran, don't think getting a divorce is so easy. It involves a lot of issues like division of assets, child custody. Zheng Wan said, still trying to persuade him to go back. If she could just get him home, the whole family could pressure him. She was sure they could convince him. He was their family slave, now and forever. Xiao Ran looked at her calmly. I'll leave with nothing. The child is yours. I won't pay a cent in child support. Logically, he could not only demand a share of their marital assets, but, after a paternity test, could even sue for compensation. However, he had no time to waste on that. He had to get divorced today. Otherwise, if he won big in the lottery before the divorce was final, it would create a huge mess. How could Zheng Wan's family resist sinking their teeth into such a windfall? So, he wanted no part of their marital property. When the apocalypse came, he'd have plenty of ways to get it all back. Zheng Wan was rendered speechless and could only follow him to the divorce office. They took a number and queued. It wasn't crowded today, so their turn came quickly. The mediator tried to make an effort. You're both still young, and you have a child. The child isn't mine, Xiao Ran stated flatly, his expression unchanging. The mediator paused, then stopped trying to persuade them. How will the assets be divided? I'll leave with nothing, Xiao Ran said. Since the child wasn't his, Xiao Ran had no obligation to provide support. And as he chose to leave with no assets, there was no property division to discuss. So, the divorce agreement was quickly drawn up. Half an hour later, Xiao Ran had exchanged his marriage certificate for a divorce certificate. A wave of relief washed over him. Finally, he had escaped the Zheng family's den of vipers. Without a glance at Zheng Wan, Xiao Ran strode away. Zheng Wan's expression was venomous. She had lost her free nanny and a significant source of income. Xiao Ran's current salary was over $10,000 a month. You think you could just run off like that? No way. She pulled out her phone and dialed the police. I want to report a crime. Yes, my father was assaulted. The attacker's name is Xiao Ran, ID number 3205. Xiao Ran left the Civil Affairs Bureau and first went to get lunch. Around 2 in the afternoon, he went to a nearby lottery shop, gave a few numbers, and spent 200 yuan on 100 tickets. 500 million. That was the maximum jackpot for this draw. The lottery tickets had a timestamp, and his divorce proceedings at the Civil Affairs Bureau were on camera. So, this would clearly be post-marital property. But Xiao Ran was now penniless. He had only 200 yuan in pocket money, and he'd spent it all. No problem. He still had his credit app. He booked a hotel on his phone, then took a taxi there. After checking in with his ID, he settled into a luxurious hotel room that cost 1,500 yuan a night. Before, he would never have dreamed of spending so much. But now, money was no object. In his room, Xiao Ran began to explore the specific uses and properties of his pocket dimension. First, whether something could be stored was determined entirely by its size. There was a spatial gate, 5 by 5 meters. So, objects could be infinitely long, but their height and width could not exceed 5 meters. Weight didn't matter, as he didn't need to physically push things in. A touch and a thought were all it took. Second, it couldn't store living things. Xiao Ran had gone out and swiped the fish tank from the floor's lounge, which contained 5 goldfish. Even though he touched it, no matter how he willed it, the fish tank wouldn't enter the pocket dimension. However, by opening the spatial gate, he could directly send the fish tank through. When he retrieved it, the fish were all dead. So, living things either have to be forced in, or they have to walk into the trap themselves. Used correctly, this could be perfect for ambushing people. Third, the spatial gate could be opened in any location and orientation, but no more than 2 meters away from him. It also couldn't be opened inside solid objects, like within a wall. If he moved, the gate would automatically close, but he could reopen it immediately. Fourth, once an item was placed in the pocket dimension, its state was preserved. For example, if he put a hot cup of tea inside, it would still be scalding an hour later. If he put a block of ice in, it wouldn't melt even a tiny bit after an hour. This is perfect for storing food. And most crucially, this state preservation included an object's kinetic energy. This meant that if Xiao Ran threw a brick into the dimension, when he released it, the brick would come flying out. What if he put fired arrows, bullets, or even objects fallen from height into it? A super weapon. All Xiao Ran needed to do was stock up on ammunition and practice his aim. Now, I just need to claim the jackpot tomorrow. Then I can buy a house, invest in the stock market, and turn the house into a safe house. That evening, Xiao Ran deliberately chose a high-end restaurant and ordered the most expensive dishes. Spending money felt incredible. Xiao Ran was deeply moved. Previously, he had lived on only 200 yuan a month. Why? To save money for his wife and son. And the result? He was just a pathetic sucker. Spend lavishly. Starting tomorrow, he would be a rich man. And when disaster struck, he would become the wealthiest person in the world. Only then, wealth wouldn't be measured in cash, but in food, clothes, energy, and other resources. Reborn and returned, Xiao Ran's mindset had completely changed. Who wouldn't have a drastic change in personality after being tied up, slaughtered, and having their blood drunk and flesh eaten by their wife's family? Besides, he had always been deeply dissatisfied with his ex-wife's family, only enduring it for the sake of his son. But the revelation that his son wasn't biologically his was the last straw. When an honest man is pushed to the brink, he can become crazier than anyone else. After eating, he paid with his payment app, spending over 30,000 yuan. His credit limit was over 80,000, so there was no awkwardness of being unable to pay. To be honest, though, the restaurant was truly expensive, but the food was just so. Back at the hotel, perfect timing. In 10 minutes, the TV station would start broadcasting the lottery draw. 1 number hit, 2 numbers hit, 3 numbers hit, all 7 a perfect match. Xiao Ran smiled. It seemed his rebirth hadn't changed history. 500 million in the bag. Oh, right, taxes and donations. Let's just call it 400 million then. Xiao Ran lay down to sleep, tossing and turning. Waves of thoughts crashed through his mind, keeping sleep at bay. Meanwhile, the Zheng household was in an uproar. What? That bastard divorced you? Zheng Yujun couldn't believe it, even with his daughter placing the divorce certificate on the table. Wasn't Xiao Ran just a dog in their family? An incredibly obedient dog who worked tirelessly without complaint. But now this dog had actually bitten him and run off. He couldn't accept it. Where is that bastard? I'll go beat him up. Zheng Gang yelled. He'd only found out when he got home that his father had been hit by his brother-in-law, who was now his ex-brother-in-law. Where's Daddy? I want a horsey ride. Zheng Jie chimed in, adding to the chaos. Your daddy's dead, Zheng Wan roared at her son. But Zheng Jie clapped his hands happily, chanting Daddy's dead, Daddy's dead. Because Xiao Ran usually spoiled him rotten, never saying a harsh word, and the child was used to seeing the family order Xiao Ran around. He had no respect for his nominal father. Zheng Wan was annoyed to death. Before, whenever Xiao Ran was home, she could just dump her son on him and not worry about a thing. Now, a 3-year-old chattering incessantly in her ear made her feel murderous. She took a deep breath, had Lin Ming look after her son for a moment, and then said, I called the police, but they said it's a domestic dispute. Unless the injuries are serious, they usually don't take the case. What? Zheng Yujun leaped up. That bastard dared to strike his elder, slapped me, and nothing happens to him? Zheng Wan remained silent. Although Zheng Yujun had been slapped, the mark on his face had almost faded. How could they file a case for an injury of that degree? Sis, why did you agree to the divorce? Zheng Gang also asked. That guy makes over 10,000 a month. Now that you're divorced, our family loses that income. How am I supposed to get married? Exactly. You know the conditions your future sister-in-law's family laid out. A 300,000 yuan bride price right off the bat, plus an apartment. Without that bastard's income, your brother's mortgage payments will be a huge burden, Zheng Yujun added. His plan had been to use the salary Xiao Ran handed over to pay his son's loans. Now that money had suddenly vanished. How could he not be anxious? He was more anxious about this than about Xiao Ran slapping him. Zheng Wan felt waves of irritation. Her father and brother only cared about Xiao Ran's monthly salary of over 10,000 yuan and didn't seem worried about her future at all. But then again, hadn't it always been like this growing up? She suppressed her annoyance and said, I won't let him off so easily. I'll make Xiao Ran pay. Zheng Yujun and Zheng Gang cursed and grumbled, but they had no idea where Xiao Ran had gone. What good would their anger and anxiety do now? Remarry. You must remarry him. Zheng Yujun declared. Not only can that bastard provide over 10,000 a month, but he's also a good worker. We absolutely can't let him get away. Zheng Wan frowned. I'm going out for some air. Xiao Ran already knew his son wasn't his. How could they possibly remarry? She was a mess of turmoil. Lin Ming couldn't handle her grandson, who was now throwing a tantrum and smashing things. Zheng Wan just wanted to escape, to get away from it all. The night passed. Xiao Ran was full of energy. He first went to a restaurant for a hearty meal. So satisfying. During those 15 days of the apocalypse, he had not only been allocated the least amount of food, but had also saved portions for his fake son. Thinking back, it was truly ironic. How could he have been so stupid? Zheng Jiel looked nothing like him, was arrogant, and completely unreasonable. A personality that wasn't like Zheng Wan's either. So, how could he not be someone else's child? Xiao Ran shook his head, deciding not to dwell on it. His life was truly beginning today. After eating, he called a cab and went to the lottery center. Learning Xiao Ran was there to claim a prize, The staff quickly ushered him in. He presented his ticket, verified his identity, and then it was time to collect the winnings, a full 500 million yuan. However, after 100 million in taxes and a 2 million charitable donation, he actually received 398 million. It was still an enormous fortune. Representatives from several banks were at the lottery center and immediately approached him to solicit business. Xiao Ran didn't care. He didn't need to buy financial products for interest. He casually chose one bank. The reason being it was closer to his residential complex. After setting up his deposit, the business department manager, radiating a suggestive charm, invited Xiao Ran to go out for a bit, her seductive intentions perfectly clear. Xiao Ran sized her up. Her looks were 70 out of 100 or higher. By Xiao Ran standards, a 60 was already a beauty, so a 70 was definitely above average. Xiao Ran was somewhat tempted, but still refused. Firstly, he didn't have time. Secondly, this fling clearly wouldn't be free. What was her job? To attract deposits. If he slept with her, he'd definitely have to buy the financial products she recommended. Xiao Ran planned to invest most of his money in the stock market, aiming to turn it into 2 billion, or even more, within 2 months. The final month would be for a crazy spending spree. So, his current capital was too important. He merely added this manager Qian Yulian on WeChat and then left the lottery center. He took a cab back to Jufu residential complex. Why return to his old complex? Because he planned to buy property here. If he didn't buy a place here, how could he humiliate the Zheng family and exact his revenge, an eye for an eye, when the apocalypse arrived? The hailstones would fall continuously. Getting hit wouldn't just cause bloody head wounds. The hail itself was highly toxic. Skin contact caused excruciating pain, and if it drew blood, you could just wait for death. Therefore, Xiao Ran naturally didn't want to go elsewhere and jeopardize his revenge. In the same residential complex, he could move around via the underground garage. My dear ex-wife's family, he thought, how could I bear to let you simply starve to death? The suffering I endured, the pain I felt. You must taste it all. Xiao Ran arrived at I Love My Home, a real estate agency near the residential complex. Looking for a property, sir? A male agent immediately approached him. Xiao Ran nodded. Buying. The agent was naturally overjoyed, his spirits lifting a couple of notches as he eagerly began his pitch. Xiao Ran held up a hand. I've set my sights on Building 8 in the Nine Fortunes complex, the villa. Call the seller. I can sign today and buy it at the listed price. However, I need the keys today to start renovations immediately. The agent felt like he was dreaming. This was practically a client walking in and handing over money. Was there any easier business than this? Yes. I'll call right away, he said hurriedly. It was a villa listed at 12 million. Even if he only got a 0.5% commission, that was 60,000. 60,000. It was a good thing he wasn't a woman, or he'd definitely suspect Xiao Ran was trying to sleep with him. Half an hour later, the homeowner arrived. Both parties happily reached an agreement. Xiao Ran first paid a 1 million deposit. Once the agent prepared the contract, they could go to the Housing Management Bureau to complete the transaction. The homeowner gladly handed the keys to Xiao Ran. After all, Xiao Ran had provided his ID and other documents, and the deposit was 1 million. Why would he worry about Xiao Ran being a thief who'd strip the villa bare and run? He no longer lived there, and all the valuables had been moved out. It was just an empty shell. The furniture and such weren't worth much. The agent was ecstatic, and his colleagues were incredibly envious. He made 60,000 in just over an hour. It was too easy. This became quite the story, spreading quickly not only within real estate circles, but also to the Nine Fortunes complex. And once the gossipy aunties got hold of it, the entire complex knew. Xiao Ran entered the villa with the keys. He was already a homeowner here, so getting into the complex was as easy as a facial scan. No trouble at all. Once inside the villa, he started searching online. For what? Home renovations. After sifting through options based on reviews and reputation, he began contacting companies. Hello. A gruff male voice came from the other end. I want to renovate a villa, Xiao Ran said. No problem, the voice replied. Xiao Ran started laying out his requirements. Just one main thing. Sturdy. Sturdy enough that even if someone outside attacks it with a sledgehammer, the house won't be breached. Windows and the like need to be fitted with retractable steel plates. The person on the other end was stunned. They'd had many clients, but this was the first time they'd heard such a renovation request. Still, the customer is always right. No problem. How long will it take? Xiao Ran asked. At least half a year, depending on the size of your villa, the voice said. Xiao Ran smiled. The construction period can't exceed 2 months. The person on the other end was stunned again. You're talking about renovating an entire villa, not building a pigsty or a doghouse. How could that possibly be done in 2 months? That'll cost extra, the man said. Xiao Ran grinned. No problem. Damn it, the man thought. I haven't even said how much extra yet. Wait, I haven't even given a base price, so how can I add to it? The man quickly said, Where are you? I'll come over right away, take a look on site, and then give you an answer. All right. Xiao Ran nodded and gave him the address. When researching this company, he'd seen reviews praising their capability, stating they could accomplish many seemingly impossible tasks. 2 months to completely overhaul an entire villa and turn it into a steel fortress. This wasn't just difficult. It was practically an impossible mission. If this weren't China, renowned for its infrastructure craze, what other country's renovators could possibly achieve this? He put down his phone. While waiting for Jiaying, the renovator, to arrive, he opened his stock trading app and began making trades. A flood of memories resurfaced as he started operating. However, before Jiaying arrived, someone else had already stormed his door. Old couple Zheng Yujun and his wife were at home looking after their grandson when suddenly, bang, 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 someone was knocking on the door, urgently, as if the sky were falling. Who is it? Zheng Yujun asked irritably as he went to open the door. The door opened, and lo and behold, it was Annie Lu from Building 7, notoriously gossipy. Old Zheng, your family sure knows how to keep a secret, Annie Lu said right off the bat. Zheng Yujun was taken aback by her words. Keeping a secret? Could it be? Could it be that news of his daughter's divorce had already gotten out? Impossible. Who in the family would spread such disgraceful news? Damn it. It must be that bastard Xiao Ran. The old man suddenly figured it out and immediately started cursing loudly. That bastard Xiao Ran. He hit me yesterday, and today he's spreading news of the divorce everywhere. Is he trying to anger our whole family to death? Ungrateful wretch. A real ungrateful wretch. We took him in, gave him food and clothes, and this is how he repays us. Annie Lu was stunned for a moment. What? Their daughter and son-in-law got divorced? Hee, this was getting even more interesting. She chuckled and said, So your daughter and son-in-law got divorced? Old Zheng, you guys are really something. She gave him a thumbs up. I just heard from the agent that your son-in-law, oh no, Xiao Ran, bought that villa in the complex. 12 million. And he didn't even haggle, Auntie Lu said, her face full of anticipation for the drama. What did you say? Zheng Yujun couldn't believe it. Xiao Ran? Buying a house. A villa, no less? How is that possible? That bastard only earned a little over 10,000 a month. And he handed it all over. Yesterday, he left with nothing after the divorce. So how could he possibly have money to buy a house, let alone a 12 million luxury villa? It's true. Just go and see for yourself. Annie Lu loved to stir things up. Zheng Yujun wavered. Although Annie Lu was gossipy, she wouldn't go so far as to make up such a joke. But Xiao Ran buying a villa? It sounded like something out of the Arabian Nights. Old Zheng, your family has struck it rich. You even bought a villa. Annie Zhao from upstairs also hurried over, her face etched with an envy so palpable it was almost signed and sealed. Zheng Yojuan's body swayed. He felt his blood pressure rising, almost unable to stand steady. One person might be mistaken, but two? Could they both be wrong? Auntie Lu, already eager for drama and being naturally gossipy, immediately said, Auntie Zhao, you don't know. Old Zheng's daughter and son-in-law got divorced. Huh? Auntie Zhao looked shocked. Old Zheng, is it true? You just let go of such a rich son-in-law? In that case, I won't stand on ceremony. Our Jejia isn't young anymore. It's about time she found a boyfriend and talked about marriage. She wasn't kidding. Someone who could casually fork out 12 million for a villa. Where else would you find such a son-in-law? So what if he's divorced? With money. Who cares if it's his second or third marriage? Besides, Xiao Ran was such a nice young man. Everyone in the complex had eyes, didn't they? Zheng Yujun was both shocked and furious. Bullshit, he roared immediately. That bastard used our money to buy the house. I'm going to find him right now. Although he didn't know how Xiao Ran had gotten the money, he thought, you just divorced my daughter yesterday morning, and in such a short time, you managed to get 12 million? So, this money must be marital property, and we can get half. And since you were a live-in son-in-law, even you belong to our Zheng family. Rounding it up, the entire 12 million should be ours. My son is getting married soon and is short on cash. The old man suddenly burst with astonishing vitality and shot out the door. The two old aunties exchanged a glance and hurriedly followed. This was prime gossip. How could they miss it? As for Zheng Yujun, he jogged all the way to Building 8. It wasn't that he didn't want to run faster, but this was as fast as he could go. Fortunately, it wasn't far, and he arrived quickly, only to see many elderly men and women already gathered around the villa. The villa had a yard, so everyone was standing outside the yard, looking in through the fence. "Hey, old Zheng." Seeing Zheng Yujun arrive, the crowd turned one by one, casting envious glances his way. TSK, the Zheng family doesn't have much going for them, but they sure struck gold, picking up such a promising son-in-law. "Congratulations. Bought a villa, huh? Impressive. You never showed it before, so low-key." The crowd chattered, but their words didn't bring Zheng Yujun the slightest bit of joy. In his eyes, this villa wasn't worth 12 million at all, 10 million at most. So, Xiao Ran had overspent by 2 million. That bastard. That's 2 million of my family's money. His face was ashen as he walked forward. Reaching the outer gate, he slammed his fist on it. There was a doorbell, but people his age weren't used to using them. Bang, bang, bang. Quick and frantic, as if someone had died. Xiao Ran thought Jia Yungue had arrived, but a glance at the security monitor made him chuckle. It was Zheng Yujun. Looks like the news of me buying a villa has already spread throughout the complex, and Zheng Yujun couldn't resist rushing over. He naturally had no intention of avoiding him. In fact, he wanted the Zheng family to be envious, jealous, and regretful to death. How could he not slap a face that had offered itself up so willingly? He opened the front door, crossed the yard to the gate, and then opened the yard gate. "You bastard," Zheng Yujun cursed and tried to barge in, naturally not wanting to air their dirty laundry in public. However, Xiao Ran blocked the doorway, preventing him from entering. The old man grew even angrier, pointing at Xiao Ran's nose. "You used our family's money, and you dare to block me from coming in?" Xiao Ran chuckled. "Old man, don't forget, your daughter and I are already divorced. We divorced yesterday, and I bought the house today. So, what does this have to do with your Zheng family by even a hair?" When this news dropped, the crowd immediately started whispering and discussing. Some of the older aunties and uncles stared at Xiao Ran with burning intensity. "Divorced? Great. My daughter is still single. If she marries Xiao Ran, wouldn't the whole family be able to move into a big villa?" Zheng Yujun, of course, wouldn't be intimidated by this. He sneered. "Xiao Ran, do you think I'm a fool? You and Zheng Wan just divorced yesterday. Where would you get so much money to buy a villa? So, this is marital property, and half of it belongs to the Zheng family." It sounded reasonable. The older folks who had just been having ideas immediately changed their expressions. "That's right, if it's marital property, then half of it does indeed belong to the Zheng family. 12 million instantly shrinks by half. Is a Xiao Ran with a net worth of 6 million still that attractive? Yes, but not as much." Xiao Ran chuckled. "How assets are divided depends on evidence. Not you spouting nonsense here. Old man, if you have a problem, go sue me in court. Now, get lost. Or, I'm calling the police. Trespassing on private property. That should get you detained for half a month, right?" He had made up the last two sentences to scare Zheng Yujun. He had no idea if it was a detainable offense. But Zheng Yujun didn't know that, and was immediately frightened and stepping back. However, to leave so dejectedly? He wasn't willing. He had already decided this villa was theirs, and that it wasn't worth 12 million. Therefore, he had to get ownership, re-sign the contract with the seller. After all, only the deposit had been paid, and they hadn't gone to the housing authority yet. That spendthrift Xiao Ran, losing 2 million in one day. I really want to beat him to death. Just then, Lin Ming also ran over, holding her grandson. After getting a rough idea of the situation, the old woman threw a tantrum, plopped down on the ground, and wailed, "You heartless little animal. You abandon your wife and child as soon as you get rich. You're truly despicable." Although this was an attempt to slander Xiao Ran, it happened to fit the facts quite well. Indeed, Xiao Ran had gotten rich, divorced, and even abandoned his son. The crowd couldn't help but whisper and discuss. This was exactly what Xiao Ran was waiting for. He wanted the Zheng family's reputation to be utterly ruined, to be reviled by everyone in the complex. He said lightly, "Why did I get a divorce? It's simple. Zheng Wan was pregnant with someone else's child before we got married. Marrying me was just to cover up her pregnancy, treating me like a patsy. Zheng Yujun, Lin Ming, you really raised her well. Such a shameless, insidious, and malicious daughter. How did I live in your house for 4 years? Was there ever a day you treated me like family? You made me do this and that all day, dumping all the housework on me. Even if I worked overtime until 10 p.m., you still made me do laundry. Don't you dare talk to me about conscience. You're not worthy." After these words, the crowd erupted. Zheng Wan actually did something so immoral? Wasn't she afraid of giving birth to a son without an anus? Ha! Lin Meiying dared to throw a tantrum in public, but she just shot herself in the foot. Now, Zheng Wan and the Zheng family's reputation will be completely ruined in this complex. It was also the first time Zheng Yujun and his wife had heard about this. For a moment, they didn't know what to say, only feeling the neighbors' scornful gazes stabbing at them, making them wish the earth would open up and swallow them. This was China, after all, getting pregnant before marriage, and then finding an honest man to take the fall, making him an unwitting father. Such things would lead to being utterly condemned by society. After a while, Lin Meiying was the first to react, screaming shrilly, "Nonsense! My daughter is such a good person. How could she do something like that? Xiao Ran, you bastard, just because you're divorced, you can slander my daughter like this?" Zheng Yujun also snapped back to reality and lunged at Xiao Ran. "I'll fight you." "Don't fight. I'm still waiting to carve you up piece by piece after the apocalypse. If you die from a heart attack or something now, wouldn't that be too much of a waste?" Xiao Ran thought, easily blocking Zheng Yujun. Even though he wasn't a particularly strong person, dealing with a 60-year-old man was more than enough. "Do you want me to say the adulterer's name too?" Xiao Ran said coldly. Zheng Wan has been maintaining an improper relationship with that man all along. I have many videos in my possession. The last sentence was, of course, a lie. But how would Zheng Yujun and his wife know? Did they dare to gamble? If Xiao Ran actually showed them in public, they might as well move to another neighborhood. How else could they show their faces? "Let's go." Lin Meiying tugged at her husband. Seeing Zheng Yujun still glaring fiercely, unwilling to give up, she whispered, "Call our son and daughter back. We need to discuss countermeasures." But Zheng Wan is still at work, Zheng Yujun said subconsciously. Lin Meiying shot him a glare. 12 million. With that kind of money, why would she still need to work? Right? Zheng Yujun then scurried off after her. The moment Zheng Yujun and his wife got home, they couldn't wait to call their son and daughter. "Zheng Gang, get back here, quick. Mom, what's so urgent? I was just about to win my hand. Money. Million. Get back here right now." "What? Okay, I'm on my way." "Zheng Wan, take leave immediately and come home." "Dad, I just took a day off yesterday. I can't ask for another one today." "Then quit that damn job. Do you know? Xiao Ran just spent 12 million to buy building no. 8 in our complex. Yes, that villa. Think about it. How could he possibly earn 12 million in such a short time between the divorce yesterday and this morning? So, that bastard must have stashed it away during the marriage. It's joint marital property. Dad, say no more. I'm coming back immediately." And so, just half an hour later, Zheng Wan and her brother, Zheng Gang, walked through the door almost at the same time. "Mom, you said millions. Where's the money?" Zheng Gang's eyes lit up, his face a mask of thrilled surprise. So their family was actually this rich. "Holy crap, I'm a secret trust fund kid." Lin Meiying sneered. "The money's with Xiao Ran. A full 12 million. "What?" Zheng Gang shot to his feet. "What does that bastard have so much money?" Zheng Yujun, however, gestured for calm. "Everyone, don't get agitated. Sit down first. We need to discuss this slowly." "Discuss my ass. We should go get the money from that bastard right now." Zheng Gang couldn't hold back. His girlfriend had been nagging him to buy her an LV bag before she'd unlock new positions. Wait a minute, if he had 12 million, why would he still want someone like her? He'd find someone younger, prettier, with a better figure. "Sit down," Zheng Yujun roared at his son. After Zheng Gang sullenly sat down, his father turned to Zheng Wan. He recounted how they'd heard about Xiao Ran buying the villa for a full 12 million, and also mentioned Xiao Ran's accusations against Zheng Wan. "Zheng Wan, was that bastard just spouting bullshit?" Zheng Yujun asked, staring into her eyes. Zheng Wan was practically seething. "You actually went and made a public scene with Xiao Ran?" Now he'd taken the chance to air her dirty laundry, and everyone in the complex would surely be gossiping behind her back. How was she supposed to show her face around here anymore? Useless fools. Something this important happens, and you don't call me back first, you just go and make a scene yourselves? Great. Are you happy now? Satisfied? But what was the use of being angry? Zheng Wan hesitated for a moment, then nodded. It's true. Xiao Jie isn't his biological son. She was afraid that if she denied it, Xiao Ran would actually leak the supposed video. Then she'd be completely finished. How could you be so careless? Zheng Yujun cursed, letting that bastard see through it and even get evidence. He didn't blame his daughter for her affair, only for not being careful enough for letting Xiao Ran find out. Truly, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. They were all cut from the same cloth. Lin Ming also showed not the slightest bit of shame. She never thought much of Xiao Ran as a son-in-law anyway. As long as the scandal stayed within the family, it was fine, but once it got out, she was still afraid of the public humiliation. Zheng Gang cared even less. What does it matter if Xiao Jia is that bastard's biological son or not? He married my sister, so that 12 million is my sister's. It's our family's. How can he just keep it all for himself after a divorce? Zheng Wan held up a hand. Don't be rash. More importantly, don't do anything. I need to make a call and consult someone. I'll say this again. Until I'm done with this call, all of you stay quietly in your rooms. Otherwise, I won't go after this money. Though Zheng Yujun and the other two were unwilling, they had no choice but to listen. After all, Xiao Ran was her husband, ex-husband. If Zheng Wan gave up on this money, how could they possibly get their hands on it? But who was Zheng Wan calling? Her lover, of course. Zheng Wan walked into her room and dialed a number. I'm still at work. If it's nothing important, I'm hanging up, a man's voice said on the other end. It was indeed Zheng Wan's lover, Zhang Zihao. He was also a doctor in her hospital department and, though only 33, was already on track to become a deputy director, with a promising future ahead of him. You need to hear me out. Zheng Wan gritted her teeth and laid out the whole situation with Xiao Ran. Zhang Zihao pondered for a moment. Xiao Ran saying he has a video of us? He's probably bluffing. We were always extremely careful, and there's no way Xiao Ran would go to the hospital. So, he definitely doesn't have any evidence. It's just Xiao Jia. The son was the weak link. A DNA test would reveal whose child he was. 12 million. Zhang Zihao's heart couldn't help but skip a beat. With his salary plus the red envelopes he received, earning over 10 million in his lifetime was definitely possible. But to come up with 12 million right now? Impossible. Not even in the next 20 years. So greed stirred within him too. Xiao Ran can pull out 12 million just like that. And he didn't even bargain. That means he has far more money than that, he analyzed calmly. Although I don't know where his money came from. It must have been acquired during your marriage. Otherwise, it's impossible for him to suddenly have such a sum in less than 24 hours. Win the lottery? Everyone knows the lottery is just an idiot tax. No one actually wins big. Zheng Wan had briefly considered a lottery win, but after Zhang Zihao's analysis, it seemed impossible. True. Who did they know who'd ever won a big lottery prize? No one. And Xiao Ran had more than 12 million? Right. Who would spend all their money on a house without even haggling? He must have far more than that to be so flush with cash that he wouldn't bother bargaining. So, the first thing you need to do is file a lawsuit against Xiao Ran for concealing joint marital assets. Get the previous divorce agreement declared invalid and redivide the property. Zhang Zihao was playing the role of her cunning advisor. Zheng Wan nodded repeatedly. She had only graduated from a vocational nursing school, while Zhang Zihao was a master's graduate from a prestigious university. Educated people really did have more ideas, and his plan was legally sound. Her parents making a scene? That would just be a public embarrassment. Would they get anything out of it? Look at this approach. Zihao, you're so smart, she said sincerely. Zhang Zihao smiled. Go hire a lawyer right away. Don't be afraid to spend money. If you win this case, you won't have to work anymore. You could just stay home and be a rich woman. MHM. Zheng Wan nodded eagerly. Have the lawyer draft the complaint too. All you need to do is sign it. Zhang Zihao continued to strategize. Oh, and make sure your parents and brother don't go stirring up any more trouble. We don't need unnecessary complications. Remember, we live in an age of law now. Throwing tantrums and making a scene will only make you a laughingstock. Zheng Wan nodded repeatedly. MHM. After hanging up, Zheng Wan went out and relayed what Zhang Zihao had told her. Of course, she didn't say it was all Zhang Zihao's idea, but claimed they had discussed it and come up with a plan together. When Zheng Yujun and the other two heard Zheng Wan's analysis that Xiao Ran likely had even more than 12 million, the greed on their faces became uncontrollable. We're going to be rich. We're going to be rich. Zheng Wan warned them strictly against making any more scenes, then immediately grabbed her bag and left to find a lawyer. Xiao Ran's mistake was showing off too soon, flaunting his newfound wealth before he should have. Xiao Ran waited a while before Jia Yungue finally arrived. The two exchanged some pleasantries, but Jia Yungue couldn't hold back. He stood up and started looking around the house. He hadn't brought many tools, just a measuring pen to make some rough calculations. After all, they hadn't discussed the price or anything, so of course, he wasn't going to be too thorough yet. The villa had 3 floors above ground and 1 basement level, totaling 600 square meters. There was also a yard outside, but it didn't need any renovations. Jia Yungue inspected it from top to bottom, then returned to the living room on the first floor and started discussing the price with Xiao Ran. If you want it done in 2 months, that's a very tight schedule, so labor costs will be very high. I'll need to arrange for workers to be on shift day and night. Xiao Ran smiled. Just give me a number. 80 million, Jia Yungue said, looking a little embarrassed after saying it. This villa was only worth about 10 million or so, but the renovation cost was a staggering 80 million. Only a fool would agree to that. However, to get it done in 2 months, 80 million was indeed a reasonable figure. He hadn't made an exorbitant demand. Xiao Ran fell into thought. Seeing this, Jia Yungue quickly added, I really didn't just pull that price out of thin air. You're rushing the schedule, so the price really can't come down much. I have to make a little something, after all. If you think it's too expensive, we can extend the deadline. For 6 months, I could probably knock off about 10 million. But that still far exceeded the price of the villa itself. Xiao Ran, however, gestured with his hand and said, It's not that I think the price is too high, but rather, for 80 million, can you meet the requirements I have? Of course, Jia Yungue said, patting his chest. I've been in this home renovation business for many years. I know what I'm doing. Your villa is 600 square meters, and an 80 million renovation fee averages out to 140,000 per square meter. Isn't that an extravagant enough budget? Thinking about it that way, it really was quite expensive. Xiao Ran nodded. All right, let's sign the contract. Huh? Signing already? You're not even going to haggle. Jia Yungue was a bit stunned. He'd never met a homeowner like this. One who first questioned if the high renovation fee was even enough for his demands, and then didn't even bargain. It all boiled down to one word, tycoon. Xiao Ran smiled. What I need is for you to do a good job, and it absolutely must meet my requirements. You can rest assured on that. I'll definitely deliver on my word, Jia Yungue said with great confidence, patting his chest again. All right, let's sign, Xiao Ran said. But let me be clear up front. If it doesn't pass inspection, I won't be so easygoing. I'll use every bit of that 80 million to sue you. No problem, Jia Yungue said. Oh, right, can I see the original property deed? And I'll need a copy. Xiao Ran shook his head. I just bought the house today. The deed hasn't been processed yet. No worries. I can pay you a 5 million deposit first. You can start working on the renovation plan. When that runs out, I'll transfer you more. If for any reason on my end, you can't complete the renovation on time, I'll still pay the full 80 million. Jia Yungue looked at him as if he were some kind of strange creature. It took him a long moment before he said, You rich folks sure are eccentric. Jia Yungue left, and naturally, he left happily. An 80 million deal. He stood to make at least a few million from it. Although Xiao Ran was spending money like water, he didn't feel the pinch in the slightest. While the stocks he bought couldn't guarantee an ultra-high daily return of 10%, getting over 5 percentage points was definitely not an issue. So, after 2 months, the 350 million he had invested would turn into 3 billion, or even more. However, whether it was 3 billion or 5 billion, it made no difference to Xiao Ran anymore. The supplies he'd be able to purchase would be enough to last him several hundred lifetimes. In 3 months, everyone's wealth would be reduced to zero, utterly meaningless. He had a total of 398 million. 350 million was invested in the stock market. Buying the house had cost 1 million so far, and he'd paid 5 million for the renovation deposit. So he currently still had 43 million, of which 11 million would soon be used to pay the final installment for the house. Although the renovation still required another 75 million, the construction period was 2 months long. He could slowly withdraw the money from the stock market. No rush. Xiao Ran wasted no time. He went to find a real estate agent again, but this time, it wasn't to buy a house, but to rent one. The villa needed 2 months of renovation. Was he supposed to live in a hotel every day during this period? It wasn't that he couldn't afford it, but staying in a hotel would be inconvenient for receiving packages. He had a lot of things to order online. Moreover, Xiao Ran also planned to rent a warehouse. Just as he stepped out, his phone rang. He glanced at it. It was a call from his company. His direct supervisor, manager Lu Qing. He casually answered. He had just said hello, when the person on the other end roared, Xiao Ran, do you have cancer or something? If you're not dead, get your ass over here to work. Otherwise, don't bother coming back ever again. All right, then I quit, Xiao Ran said calmly. He was going to be very, very busy. Where would he find the time to go to work? Posturing? The apocalypse was almost here. What was the point of posturing? At least, not before he finished all his preparations. He decisively hung up the phone. Back at I Love My Home Realty. As soon as he appeared, the male agent who had handled his previous transaction immediately scurried over. Bro, is there a problem? I want to rent an apartment, Xiao Ran said. Huh? The male agent stared at Xiao Ran blankly. Didn't you just buy a villa? You've already got the keys. It's move-in ready. Why do you still want to rent a place? Xiao Ran smiled. I'm going to renovate that villa. Do you have any good listings here? It needs to be as large as possible, clean, and with relatively new furnishings. Oh, so you're renovating it. True, someone willing to spend 12 million on a villa wouldn't just live in someone else's old house, would they? Of course, they want to renovate it to their own taste. No problem, the agent said quickly. Bro, I have several good options on hand. I'll take you to see them right now. It also has to be in the Jiu-Fu residential complex, Xiao Ran added. No problem. 2 hours later, Xiao Ran had finalized the contract with the landlord. A short-term lease for 2 months. The monthly rent was a hefty 12,000. It was a bit expensive, but the apartment was genuinely large, and the decor was new and luxurious enough. This place was also move-in ready. Xiao Ran only needed to buy some bedding. All right, another thing taken care of. Xiao Ran had so many things to buy. However, a large amount of his money was still in the stock market, and it was far from reaching his goal of a tenfold increase. For now, he could only make small purchases. He started making a list, jotting down all the essential items. Some things required a long lead time, so he had to order them in advance. He was in the middle of making his list when his phone rang again. He glanced at it. The screen displayed 2 words, Wi-Fi. He'd forgotten to change the contact name. Xiao Ran picked up the call. The punishment for the Zheng family had already begun, so how could he possibly not answer Zheng Wan's call? Hello, Xiao Ran. I've already hired a lawyer and filed a lawsuit to redivide our marital assets. Zheng Wan's voice was cold and heartless. Give me an address, so the court summons can reach you. So she actually filed. Xiao Ran wasn't surprised at all. He gave a faint smile. Hold on, I need to find a lawyer too. From now on, have your lawyer contact mine. Snap. He hung up. Time to play with the Zheng family for a bit. Xiao Ran had no intention of wasting his own time in court. He first searched online for the best divorce lawyer in Sucheng and then headed over. As luck would have it, the renowned lawyer He Qian was available. Mr. Xiao, are you aware of lawyer He's fees? The young receptionist kindly reminded him. Yes, 3,000 an hour. Xiao Ran nodded. Expensive indeed. The receptionist was secretly taken aback. Xiao Ran's clothes didn't suggest he was a wealthy man. She quickly made a call. After hanging up, she gave Xiao Ran a slight bow. Mr. Xiao, please follow me. She led Xiao Ran to an office, knocked first, then pushed the door open. Lawyer He, Mr. Xiao is here, she said. He Qian, a man in his 40s wearing a suit and glasses, looked up at Xiao Ran. His gaze was sharp, as if he could see right through people. Please sit, he said. Xiao Ran sat. The receptionist asked, Mr. Xiao, what would you like to drink? No, thank you, Xiao Ran smiled. I don't think I'll be long. All right. The receptionist left. You seem to be in a hurry, Mr. Xiao. Let's get straight to it then, He Qian said. Xiao Ran nodded. My ex-wife and I divorced yesterday. However, after the divorce, I won the lottery. Now she's suing me for concealing marital assets and wants them redivided. A mocking amusement played on his face. He Qian chuckled. The timing of a divorce and a lottery win should both have clear timestamps. I don't think you even need a lawyer for this, Mr. Xiao. Just submit the evidence, and it's a guaranteed win. Xiao Ran shook his head. I was originally going to let it go, but my ex-wife is being so aggressive that I've decided I can't just drop it. Oh, He Qian's interest was piqued. What do you have in mind, Mr. Xiao? Before we married, my ex-wife was involved with someone else and was already pregnant. So, the child isn't mine. Here's a strand of the child's hair, and here's mine. You can arrange a paternity test, Xiao Ran said calmly, as if narrating someone else's story. When I signed the divorce papers yesterday, I agreed to leave with nothing. Now, not only do I want an equal share of the marital assets, but I also demand compensation for emotional distress. He Qian thought for a moment. I should warn you, Mr. Xiao, my fees are very high. So high that any compensation you get from your ex-wife might not even cover my legal costs. Don't worry, the lottery prize was substantial. I'm not short on money, Xiao Ran said with a smile. He Qian asked, somewhat curious, how much did you win? 500 million. Puffed. He Qian, who was sipping tea, sprayed it all out. You call that substantial? Even with his high fees, he'd never earned 500 million in his lifetime. Xiao Ran paid him no mind and continued. The reason I sought you out, lawyer He, is because I know you're the king of divorce cases. And what I want is to make my ex-wife and her family pay. I was a live-in son-in-law. For 4 years of marriage, I handed over my entire salary, getting only 200 a month for pocket money. I endured all the humiliation solely because of my son. So now that I've found out he's not mine, this good-natured man is going to erupt. Qian nodded, quite understanding. But if he harbored such good man's fury, why agree so readily to leave with nothing, only to win the lottery that very afternoon? It was so coincidental, as if Xiao Ran knew he would win and deliberately divorced, penniless, to keep the prize for himself. Then he chuckled at his own thoughts. If Xiao Ran had connections at the lottery center, or could even know the winning numbers in advance, what terrifying power would that be? Could such a man be deceived by a woman for 4 years? He was overthinking it. All right, Mr. Xiao, do you have the original lottery ticket? It's fine if you don't. For a prize this big, I can request the lottery center to issue a certificate. You'll just need to sign a power of attorney for me, he said. I have the original ticket with me, Xiao Ran said. He'd gone to the trouble of coming to hire a lawyer. Would he be unprepared? And so, they began the process. Even Qian felt like this was easy money. Even the most incompetent lawyer wouldn't lose this case. The only difference would be how much of the marital assets and emotional distress compensation they could recover for Xiao Ran. And his fee was 3,000 an hour. Xiao Ran didn't mind. He just laid out his conditions. First, I want the litigation period to be as long as possible, but not exceeding 3 months. Second, the more money they have to pay, the better. Furthermore, I plan to donate this money to Project Hope. You should let the judge know so they don't think I'm extorting them. The longer the litigation, the more Zheng Wan's family would suffer and agonize. But if it dragged past 3 months, wouldn't they perhaps get away without paying? So, he also wanted them to taste the bitterness of financial loss. Qian found Xiao Ran's request peculiar. He'd never heard of anyone wanting to prolong litigation, but it didn't matter to him. He barely needed to prepare for this case, and the longer it dragged on, the higher his earnings. Why wouldn't he be happy to oblige? Xiao Ran gave Zheng Wan's phone number to Qian, who would handle communications with her from then on. Qian also assigned an intern lawyer to Xiao Ran to keep him updated on the case's progress. This intern lawyer was an ice queen, a good 170 centimeters tall, with looks scoring nearly 90 out of 100. With her killer curves, an ample 34D chest, and full, shapely hips, her figure was exquisite. She wore black frame glasses, exuding a stunning, aloof beauty. Mr. Xiao, my name is Lu Mei. If you want any updates on the case, just ask me, she said, as she escorted Xiao Ran to the law firm's entrance. So tall, and with her impressive physique, she turned countless heads among the passers-by. All right, Xiao Ran nodded. He had already added Lu Mei on WeChat and had her phone number. It's not just about the case. You can actually come to me for anything, Lu Mei added. But then, as if realizing her words could be misconstrued, she quickly clarified, I mean, for any legal matters. Her clarification, far from helping, practically invited Xiao Ran to get the wrong idea. Xiao Ran looked at her, unable to decide if it was a genuine slip of the tongue or if she'd said it intentionally. Heh! Qian immediately called Zheng Wan. Ms. Zheng Wan, this is Mr. Xiao Ran's legal counsel. May I ask who your counsel is? Oh, Han Tao. All right, I understand. I'll liaise with Mr. Han. He will naturally inform you of any developments. He hung up and dialed a new number. Hello, this is Qian. Yes, I'm representing Xiao Ran now. You're bound to lose this case. I'm not calling to brag, but on behalf of Xiao Ran, I'm informing you of our intent to file a lawsuit to redivide marital assets. The reason for our lawsuit? Simple. Xiao Ran discovered that Zheng Jie is not his biological son. Therefore, he demands a redivision of assets and compensation for emotional distress. The person on the other end was clearly speechless. Zheng Wan hadn't mentioned anything about Zheng Jie, catching them completely off guard. What do lawyers fear most? A client hiding a secret that the opposing counsel then uncovers, ambushing them. It was a fatal blow. All right, you go ahead and look into it. Qian smiled and hung up. For him, this lawsuit was a walk in the park, like an open book exam. Forget him. Even a legal intern would find it hard to lose. He dialed another number. Xiao Zhang, write up a short piece. Zhang Zihao, an orthopedic doctor at the North District of Municipal Hospital, is having an affair with a nurse in his department, Zheng Wan. They even have a son together. That's the main storyline. You can embellish the rest. Get a bunch of online trolls to stir up buzz online. By tonight, at the very least, all the doctors and nurses in the North District Orthopedics Department must know. After hanging up again, he gave a slight smile and made no more calls. Xiao Ran's demand was to utterly disgrace Zheng Wan. As a man, he naturally sided with Xiao Ran, and, as his client's lawyer, he had even more reason to. Adulterer and adulteress, they deserve to be nailed to the pillar of shame. Not long after Zheng Wan put down her phone, it rang again. She picked it up, saw it was her lawyer, and quickly answered. Zheng Wan, how much have you been hiding from me? The other party blasted right off the bat. Do you know how much of a disadvantage this puts me at? Zheng Wan was a bit stunned. After a moment's pause, she said, What do you mean? Zheng Jie isn't Xiao Ran's son, is he? Han Tao asked. Zheng Wan took a deep breath. She was already mentally prepared for this. Xiao Jie indeed isn't Xiao Ran's son, but that has nothing to do with him hiding marital assets. Zheng Wan, I just got a call from your ex-husband's lawyer. Do you know who he is? He Qian. Lawyer He. The best divorce lawyer in Sioux City. Compared to him, I'm just a nobody. He's almost never lost a divorce case. Han Tao said. Zheng Wan sneered. Almost never lost doesn't mean never lost. Even if he's never lost before, this time he will. Fine, let's put that aside for now, Han Tao said. Now Xiao Ran is also preparing to sue, on the grounds that Zheng Jie isn't his biological son, demanding a redistribution of marital property and compensation for emotional distress. Zheng Wan almost laughed in exasperation. After thinking for a moment, she said, Well, that's perfect. We both want to redistribute the marital assets. Lawyer Han, have you found out how much marital property Xiao Ran has hidden? Not yet, don't rush. I need the court documents first before the bank can look into Xiao Ran's personal assets. That'll be tomorrow at the earliest, Han Tao said. All right, I'll wait for your good news. Zheng Wan hung up. No matter how morally bankrupt she was, Xiao Ran's money was still marital property. So, even if Xiao Ran hired 100,000 lawyers, he would still have to cough up the money in his bank account. Xiao Ran checked the time. It was already past 4 in the afternoon. He continued working on his shopping list. Busy until evening, he stretched lazily, left his building, and headed out for dinner. He got into the elevator, and, after descending 2 floors, an older woman entered. Seeing him, her eyes immediately lit up. Like a salesperson pitching a product, she began promoting her daughter, praising how beautiful and gentle she was, absolutely the perfect wife and mother material. Xiao Ran felt a headache coming on. When they finally reached the ground floor, ding, the elevator doors opened, and he quickly rushed out. Behind him, the woman was still calling, Xiao, you haven't taken down my daughter's phone number yet. Phew. After running a good distance, Xiao Ran finally breathed a sigh of relief. That woman was too persistent. But this was only for now. In another 3 months, people wouldn't be worried about marrying off their sons or daughters, but about food and clean water. Coincidentally, as Xiao Ran reached the entrance of his residential complex, he saw Zheng Youjuan's family approaching. When Zheng Jie saw him, he started clapping his hands and pointing, shouting, It's the bastard. The bastard is here. In just one day, Dad had become bastard. Clearly, Zheng Youjuan's family had taught him that. Zheng Youjun immediately strode over, pointing at Xiao Ran's nose. You bastard. Let me tell you, don't even think about swindling a single cent of the assets that belong to our family. Also, hiding marital assets, especially a large amount, is a criminal offense. Xiao Ran chuckled. Are you trying to fool me, thinking I don't know the law? Hold on, let me consult my lawyer. He took out his phone and, right in front of Zheng Youjun, dialed Lu Mei. Lawyer Lu, hello. Someone just told me that hiding marital assets is a criminal offense. Is that true? Oh no, it isn't. All right, no problem. Just a quick consultation. Xiao Ran hung up and calmly said to Zheng Youjun, I just asked my lawyer. You're trying to intimidate me. I should remind you, however, that intimidation can be a criminal offense. You're too arrogant, too smug. Zheng Youjun was trembling with anger. For 4 years in their home, Xiao Ran had always been submissive. How dare he be so arrogant and punchable now? Bastard, you dare bully my dad. Zheng Gang rushed forward, rolling up his sleeves, looking like he was about to start a fight. Xiao Ran didn't even glance at him. Zheng Gang was just a good-for-nothing spendthrift. He couldn't be bothered with him. Zheng Wan was calmer and more astute. She walked over and said, Xiao Ran, don't get too smug too soon. You can be as arrogant as you want now, but as long as it's proven that your current money is marital property, which it clearly is, you'll have to cough up half, whether you like it or not. Xiao Ran chuckled, then shook his head. Aren't you all incredibly curious about how much money I actually have? This instantly made the eyes of all 4 Zheng family members light up with anticipation. They were also very eager to know how much their family could get. Hee, why don't you guess? Xiao Ran grinned, making the 4 of them stomp their feet in fury. The Zheng family fumed for a while longer, but eventually they had no choice but to leave and find a restaurant. Ordinarily, Lin Ming would buy groceries, and they'd all wait for Xiao Ran to come home in the evening to cook. The family would just sit tight. For lunch the next day, the elderly Zheng Yujun couple would eat leftovers. They adamantly refused to cook themselves, even though it made more sense to cook at noon and finish the meal by evening. It was sheer laziness. With Xiao Ran to order around, why would they lift a finger? Now that their in-house cook was gone, Lin Ming also refused to set foot in the kitchen. Coupled with the fact they were soon to be rich, they decided to splurge and eat out. They were surprisingly willing to spend, choosing to Yulu near their residential complex, a place where the average bill was around 150 yuan per person. Not exactly cheap. Xiao Ran had been tailing them all along. Even though he'd dealt the Zheng family several heavy blows in the past 2 days, the thought of how the four of them had figuratively torn him limb from limb still made his blood boil. How could he possibly calm down? Time to rub some more salt in their wounds. He dialed Lu Mei again. Lawyer Lu, fancy joining me for a meal? Yes, right now. Great, I'll send you the location. Hanging up, he sent you Lu's address to Lu Mei. She replied quickly, be there in 20 minutes. Xiao Ran walked into Lu and soon spotted the Zheng family on the second floor. He picked a table 3 away from theirs, sat down, and scanned the QR code to order. He chose 8 dishes, each one more expensive than the last. Then he waited. Naturally, the Zheng family saw him too, and the sight made their skin crawl. We come here to eat, and he shows up too? Who believe that's a coincidence? Damn him. Suddenly, Zheng Wan's phone rang. She glanced at it. It was her colleague Xiao Lu, the one she was closest to. The moment she answered, Xiao Lu's anxious voice burst out. Zheng Wan, quick, check the Suzhou City Forum. There's a post saying you and Dr. Zhang are having an affair, and that Xiao Jia is even his son. It's blowing up. What? Zheng Wan's face drained of color. After a few hasty words to Xiao Lu, she quickly hung up, opened the forum, and started scrolling. Sure enough, right below the pinned posts, a thread titled, Shocking. Dr. Zhang X. Orthopedic surgeon at Municipal Hospital North District in long-term affair with nurse Zhang X, has a son, blazed at the top. It was incredibly popular, with over 1,000 replies. She swayed, nearly fainting. Forcing herself to calm down, she opened the post. After reading it, she let out a small sigh of relief. The poster had fabricated all the details except for the headline. Getting intimate in the locker room? As if they weren't idiots. Why would they do something so risky there? The real question was, who had leaked this? Her eyes involuntarily flicked toward Xiao Ran. Who else could it be? I never would have guessed. For 4 years of marriage, you acted so meek, so subservient, doing whatever I asked. It was all an act. You're not a sheep. You're a wolf in sheep's clothing, hiding marital assets and stabbing me in the back like this. What a despicable lowlife. So what if I had an affair and a son from it? Xiao Jia called you dad for 3 years, while he had to call his own father uncle. Do you have any idea how much that hurt Ziheo? Zheng Wan's eyes burned with venom, but she was past caring now. Worst case scenario, she'd resign. She was set to get at least 6 million from Xiao Ran anyway, so her future was secure. Thump, thump, thump. She strode over to Xiao Ran's table and spat. Xiao Ran, I never knew you were such a vile, scheming bastard. Huh, you think these dirty tricks can break me? Let me tell you, our 4 years of marriage are a fact, and marital assets will be divided equally. Xiao Ran nodded. You're absolutely right. Marital property must be divided equally. I couldn't agree more. I just hope you remember that when we're in court, and don't try to back out. I was recording you just now, by the way. And another thing, while you might not care about your reputation, I wonder if a certain Dr. Zhang feels the same. I hear he's about to be promoted to deputy director. Something like this could seriously impact his career, don't you think? This particular piece of intel hadn't come from the Zheng Wan of his previous life. Lu Mei had sent it to him earlier. Zheng Wan froze. True, she could resign, but what about Zhang Ziheo? This was a critical time for his career. Anxiety gnawed at her. When she found out she was pregnant, she'd been so desperate to keep the baby that she'd rather find some unsuspecting man to marry her than have an abortion. That proved how much she cared for Zhang Ziheo. So, when Xiao Ran hinted this could ruin his prospects, she couldn't help but panic. You despicable rat, she seethed through clenched teeth. Just wait until the court rules, and you have to cough up that money. I'll make you pay for every bit of this. With that, she spun around, hips swaying indignantly, and stormed back to her table. Xiao Ran shook his head. Villains never learn, do they? She was the one who had cuckolded him. No, she had dug a pit for him from the very beginning, setting him up, tricking him into being a clueless father figure for 3 years. He'd slaved away for her family for 4 years, and they'd even taken every penny he earned. She conveniently forgot all that, only worrying that her dirty laundry being aired would cause her shame and affect Zhang Ziheo's future? Hey, and what about me? I'm the real victim here. But Xiao Ran held no illusions that Zheng Wan or anyone in her family would ever feel a shred of remorse. For the next 3 months, he'd ensure they didn't have a single peaceful day. And once the cataclysm began, a grim smile touched his lips. He would return all the pain they'd caused him, doubled. A moment later, a stunningly beautiful and glamorous woman ascended the stairs to the second floor, her presence seeming to illuminate the entire area. Whoa, what a knockout! Zheng Gang, who was seated facing the staircase, practically had his eyes pop out. When I get rich, I'm definitely getting a girlfriend like her. Hey, holy crap! He swore loudly as he saw the beauty walk directly toward Xiao Ran. No way. It can't be. Damn it. She's really here for Xiao Ran. At that moment, jealousy burned so fiercely in him his eyes felt like they were turning green. Such an incredibly beautiful woman, with such firm, large breasts and a perfectly round, perky, but was actually sitting down opposite Xiao Ran. How? Why him? That bastard used to be nothing more than an obedient dog at home. Now that dog was sitting with a goddess, while his own girlfriend. She was nothing special to look at and worked in one of those shady foot massage parlors. The contrast was stark. Hearing the commotion, Zheng Wan turned to look, and her expression immediately turned thunderous. It's only been a day since the divorce, and you've already found someone new? Impossible. He obviously had someone on the side all along. Well. You had the audacity to accuse me of cheating on you? And what about this? Does this make you faithful? Bang. She shot to her feet and marched towards Xiao Ran's table. Zheng Wan looked down at Xiao Ran, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Xiao Ran, you have a nerve to point fingers at me? Who's this? Your new flame, is she? You must be Ms. Zheng, Lu Mei said, her expression serious. Just for that comment, I could sue you for defamation. However, I'll let it slide this time. But if you dare say something so irresponsible again, I won't be so lenient. Xiao Ran chuckled. This is Ms. Lu Mei, my attorney. Zheng Wan froze. Xiao Ran's lawyer was supposed to be He Qian. Yes, He Qian. Not some drop-dead, gorgeous woman. Good heavens, she thought with a sneer. How can her chest be that huge? Implants, surely. And that but is way too perky. Must be fillers. Still, Lu Mei exuded an air of sharp competence and a commanding presence. So, she probably was a lawyer, perhaps another one from the firm. After all, He Qian was Sioux City's top divorce lawyer. It wouldn't be unusual for him to send a junior associate to handle things with Xiao Ran. She'd been careless. It had never even crossed her mind that Lu Mei could be a lawyer. A wave of embarrassment washed over her. She wished the earth would open up and swallow her whole. But wait, Xiao Ran had obviously followed them here. Why not meet Lu Mei for dinner somewhere else? Why this specific restaurant? It was painfully obvious. He wanted her to jump to conclusions. He was here to rub it in her face, to crush her. Xiao Ran, you can gloat all you want now, Zheng Wan said coldly. Tomorrow, I'm having my lawyer file a motion with the court to freeze your assets, to stop you from squandering our marital property. Of course, her lawyer and Zhang Ziheo had coached her to say this. You think you're so high and mighty? Let's see how you manage once your assets are frozen. Xiao Ran scoffed. Fine, give it your best shot. Let's see if you can actually freeze my assets tomorrow. You think the court will just do whatever you want? It's not your personal piggy bank, you know. Just you wait. Zheng Wan fumed, storming back to her table. She hadn't even touched her dinner, but she was already too full of rage to eat. Xiao Ran roared with laughter, but when his eyes fell on the 4 members of the Zheng family, his expression remained icy. Lu Mei observed this, a silent forming in her mind. It seemed Xiao Ran had been deeply wronged by the Zheng family. Why else would he be so determined to make their lives miserable? He didn't even need their money. He planned to donate any settlement and would still have to cover her legal fees. It could only mean his hatred for them ran so deep that their suffering and financial ruin were his sole satisfaction. She flashed a captivating smile and deliberately scooted her chair a little closer to Xiao Ran. Smart woman. Xiao Ran caught on immediately and leaned in closer too. They appeared to be whispering intimately, heads close together, though in reality, they were just making small talk, saying whatever popped into their heads. It was all for Zheng Wan's benefit. Sure enough, Zheng Wan saw them and nearly stormed back over. Are they really just a lawyer and her client? She fumed internally. Do they need to be practically sitting in each other's laps? Dad, Mom, you go ahead and eat. I'm leaving, she huffed, standing up, grabbing her bag and stalking out. She truly was too furious to eat. Once Zheng Wan was gone, Xiao Ran grinned, straightened up, and said to Lu Mei, thanks. For what? Lu Mei asked, playing innocent. Here, have some food, Xiao Ran offered. After dinner, Xiao Ran hailed a cab for Lu Mei. He watched her drive off before heading back to his apartment complex. She's quite a woman, he mused. Beautiful, perceptive, and that figure is absolutely stunning. Too bad I'm in no state for a relationship right now. Would a catch like Lu Mei ever agree to be just his lover? Not a chance. But things would be different once the apocalypse hit. In those days, a decent meal could make people do anything. Well, that's a thought for another time. Right now, Xiao Ran had no time to be chasing women. I also need to get back in shape, he thought. During the apocalypse, it hailed constantly, and we never saw the sun. I don't know if it'll be like that from the start this time, but I have to prepare for long periods without sunlight. The stronger my body, the less likely I'll be to fall ill. And then there's the matter of weapons. When the apocalypse hits, I'm going to make the Zheng family regret they were ever born. That means I'll have to let them know I have a massive food stockpile. But once they realize they can't get their hands on any of it, they'll undoubtedly leak the information, inciting everyone in the complex to attack me. It's absolutely going to happen. My memories from my past life are proof. Therefore, I need a substantial arsenal, ideally firearms. Getting guns in China is impossible. I could go overseas. I certainly have the money, but foreign countries are too dangerous. In places where you can buy guns easily, isn't it just asking to get ripped off or worse? Building a safe house, stockpiling supplies. My priority is to play it safe. So, me, Xiao Ran, take risks abroad? Not happening. But that's okay. I can go to a shooting range and open a spatial portal right in front of the gun's muzzle. The bullets will fly straight into my storage space the instant they're fired. Then, when I need them, I can release them with a mere thought, single shots, a full barrage, and all without a sound. As long as I'm willing to spend big, I can get all the fired ammunition I need. Lost in these thoughts, he walked on, eventually arriving back at his apartment. Around 10 that evening, Lu Mei sent him a text. It simply said goodnight. He remembered how, when he was chasing Zheng Wan, he'd typically send 10 messages before she deigned to reply with a single one, often after at least a half-hour delay. Now, the tables had completely turned. Why the change? Money, that damn scoundrel, he thought. It sure is effective. Faced with his nearly 400 million in wealth, even a goddess like Lu Mei was taking the initiative to wish him good night. Xiao Ran smirked, deliberately waiting 10 minutes before texting back. Good night. He was done being a simp in this lifetime. From now on, he would be the one collecting goddesses. The night passed. Zheng Wan barely slept a wink. Her mind raced, replaying the 12 million, Xiao Ran's smug face, and the sight of him cozying up with Lu Mei. As soon as it was 9 a.m., she impatiently called Han Tao, urging him to get to the bank immediately and check Xiao Ran's accounts. An hour later, Han Tao called back. Well, Zheng Wan demanded. Did you find anything? I did. How much? You might want to sit down for this. Just tell me. How much is it? Zheng Wan felt a thrill of both fear and excitement. If Han Tao was telling her to prepare herself, the amount had to be staggering. 20 million? Maybe even 50 million? Your ex-husband transaction volume over the past 6 months, or rather, just in the last 2 days, totals nearly 400 million. Han Tao exclaimed, his own voice laced with disbelief as he finished. 400 million. 400 million. Thump. A heavy sound came from the other end of the line. Ms. Zheng? Ms. Zheng. Han Tao cried into the phone. Zheng Wan scrambled to her feet. Even though the fall had left her in agony, she was too excited to care. She shouted into the phone. Are you sure it's 400 million? Not 40 million? That 10 makes a world of difference. 400 million. I'm sure, Han Tao replied. To be honest, he had counted the digits 3 times before confirming. But the money was transferred into Xiao Ran's account after your divorce. And the source is the official prize disbursement account of the National Lottery Center. What? Zheng Wan jumped up. You mean he won the lottery after the divorce? It's not marital property, right? I never studied law, but even I know it doesn't count. From the timeline Han Tao analyzed, your ex-husband likely bought the ticket either on the day of your divorce or within the 2 days prior. If it was during the 2 days before, then no doubt it's marital property. But if he bought on the day, it depends on whether it was before or after the divorce was finalized. Zheng Wan thought for a moment, then said firmly, it must have been before. Otherwise, why would he insist on leaving the marriage with nothing? He was so eager to finalize the divorce because he wanted to keep the jackpot all to himself. That sounded reasonable, but it actually wasn't. The lottery hadn't been drawn yet. So how could Xiao Ran have known he'd win? She was reasoning backward, assuming he knew he'd won, and overlooking a basic point of logic. Han Tao chuckled. Then let me offer my congratulations in advance, Ms. Zheng. You're about to get close to 200 million. Zheng Wan beamed and said, Han, I'll need your help to file with the court to freeze my ex-husband's bank account. No problem. Han Tao agreed immediately. If he could win this high-profile divorce case involving 400 million, his name would skyrocket in Sioux City's legal circles. As soon as she hung up, Zheng Wan called Zhang Zihao. Zihao. She didn't even finish her sentence before Zhang interrupted her. Do you have any idea how many people are gossiping about us right now? And you still have the nerve to call me? Are you insane? No, just listen. Zheng Wan took a deep breath. Xiao Ran got rich because he won the lottery. Zhang Zihao was stunned. That possibility had never even crossed his mind. Who in their right mind actually wins the lottery? But apparently, Xiao Ran really had. Guess how much he won? Zheng Wan didn't leave him hanging. She took another breath and said, 400 million. After tax. Thud. Something fell on Zhang Zihao's end of the line. Clearly, he had fallen from shock. 400 million. Who wouldn't faint hearing that? And the key point was, they were entitled to a share of it. Zhang didn't even stop to consider how wrong his previous assumptions had been. He quickly asked, when was the ticket purchased? That's the most important thing. Han Tao looked into it. It had to be either 2 days before the divorce or the day of. That night, there were 100 jackpot winners totaling 500 million, and it looks like Xiao Ran won it all himself, Zheng Wan replied, heart aching at the thought. He had to pay 100 million in taxes. Robbery, really? In her mind, that 100 million was also hers. At least half of it. Zhang Zihao nodded. So as long as we can prove he bought the ticket before the divorce, even if he claimed the prize after, it's still marital property. Exactly, Zheng Wan agreed. Our divorce was finalized around 11:30 m. As long as we rule out the afternoon, he must have bought the ticket before the divorce. Plus, he was the one who insisted on a clean break. If he didn't know he'd won, why would he do that? She wasn't wrong. Xiao Ran had known. He wanted to keep the prize from becoming shared property. Zhang Zihao was already mentally on board. He nodded. But the real focus? The 500 million prize. He was still in a daze, his mind too stunned to think straight. Zihao, we're rich. Zheng Wan said excitedly. You should quit your job. We'll immigrate and live abroad. Zhang thought about it, then nodded. Good idea. I can't even step outside anymore without people gossiping. My wife found out too. From last night to this morning, it's been a nightmare. She wants a divorce, says she'll kill herself. My head's about to explode. He didn't love his wife all that much. It was her father who mattered, an official in the healthcare system. Zhang had only stayed for career prospects. But now, he didn't feel like tolerating it anymore. Even half the prize was 200 million. They could go anywhere, buy anything. All right, keep a close eye on things. Let's get that money as soon as possible, he said, trying to sound calm, though his voice was clearly trembling. Zheng Wan readily agreed. She sat on the bed for a long time, trying to calm down, then went out and announced, Dad, Mom, Gongzi, I have something to tell you. Moments later, the whole neighborhood heard the cheers coming from the Zheng family. Within half an hour, word spread. Xiao Ran won the lottery. 500 million total. After tax, 400 million. But it's marital property. Even if he divorced and then claimed the prize, he still had a hand over half. 500 million. 400 after tax. To ordinary people, the difference didn't even matter. They were both astronomical. The Zheng family struck gold. People lamented that fate must be blind to let this family hit the jackpot. But still, elderly neighbors, matchmakers all, started swarming to both Xiao Ran and Zheng Wan. Why? To propose matches, of course. For 200 million. Who cared if someone was divorced? They were still a hot commodity. But just as Zheng Wan was daydreaming about which country to move to, her phone rang. It was Han Tao. Had he frozen Xiao Ran's account? She answered eagerly. Ms. Zheng, I suggest you try to reach a settlement with your ex-husband, Han Tao began. Zheng Wan was stunned. Why? Weren't you going to freeze his assets? Because your ex-husband bought the lottery ticket after your divorce, Han Tao said, his voice drained. Was there even a case to fight anymore? The evidence was irrefutable. No way, Zheng Wan blurted. It didn't make sense. She couldn't accept it. You must be mistaken. I'm not, Han Tao replied. He understood her disappointment. He felt the same. This was a $400 million case, after all. Your divorce was finalized at 11:30 m. Xiao Ran bought the ticket at 2:11 p.m. That afternoon. The timestamp, security footage, and the ticket itself all prove it. He continued, now your ex-husband is suing you for concealing the truth about Zheng Jie's parentage. He claims emotional distress and is demanding compensation. My advice? Reach a settlement. Otherwise, you're almost certain to lose this case. Han Tao had actually been tactful. Almost was putting it lightly. It was a guaranteed loss. Zheng Wan went completely blank. Her mind was a void. 200 million gone. Gone. No, that was her money. Her money. She spiraled into hysteria, her thoughts unhinged. Han Tao kept saying, "Hello? Hello." But she didn't respond. He realized the shock had hit her hard and quietly ended the call. The past 2 days, Prosperity Gardens had been absolutely buzzing. First, the Zheng family had burst out, claiming they could get 200 million from Xiao Ran. And then what? News spread that Xiao Ran's 400 million was all marital assets, meaning he didn't need to split it with the Zhengs at all. Everyone had seen it. The Zhengs, who had been strutting around the neighborhood like emperors, full of themselves, had all scurried back inside. Not a single one of them came out to deny the latest news. So, was this new information true or false? It had to be true. Haha, serve them right. Justice prevails. Exactly. Good thing the Zhengs didn't get their hands on that money. They're such a disgrace now. First, their daughter's affair and having a child with another man, and now this. They thought they'd hit a 200 million jackpot, and it turns out all their excitement was for nothing. If I were one of the Zhengs, I'd be having nightmares. Heh, they won't live this down for at least 10 years. 10 years? Are you kidding? We're talking 200 million. If they hadn't divorced, it would have been 400 million. This shame will haunt them for the rest of their lives. Serves them right. Totally serves them right. And what about Zheng Wan and her family, the laughingstock of the community? The 4 of them were holed up in their rooms, dejected, as if the sky had fallen. They had no energy for anything. The thought of the lost 200 million was a piercing, gut-wrenching pain. "Grandma, I'm hungry," Zheng Jie suddenly cried out. "Hungry, hungry, hungry. All you ever think about is eating." Zheng Yu-jun grumbled, finding his grandson unbearable to look at now. "Go to whoever your real father is. Don't leave him here with me." "Dad, what are you saying?" Zheng Wan shot up. Zheng Yojuan's face was dark. "If you hadn't done those disgraceful things, Xiao Ran would still be our son-in-law. You two wouldn't have divorced, and that 400 million would all be ours. Now, we haven't gotten a single cent." And that wasn't all. Xiao Ran was also planning to sue to redivide their marital assets and claim emotional damages. The Zheng family was looking at having to pay a hefty sum. However, Zheng Wan hadn't mentioned this yet. Otherwise, Zheng Yu-jun would have gone completely insane. Zheng Wan looked at her father. "All the money Xiao Ran earned before, I managed it. And how much of that did I give to my younger brother? Don't you have any clue? And now you're looking down on my son? How dare you? Sis, isn't Dad right?" Zheng Gang chimed in from the side. "If you hadn't divorced brother-in-law, our family could have gotten 400 million. TSK. Now he calls him brother-in-law." Zheng Wan fumed. "Before, didn't every single one of you treat Xiao Ran like a workhorse? And now you're all blaming me?" She felt like she was going to cough up blood. Zheng Gang continued with his bad ideas. "Sis, can't you get back together with brother-in-law? Even though Xiao Jie isn't his biological son, he called him dad for 3 years. There must be some bond, right?" "That's right." Zheng Yu-jun and his wife clapped their hands simultaneously, their eyes lighting up. He called him dad for 3 years. How could there be no feelings? Besides, they were married. Deep bonds are forged in marriage. "Zheng Wan, tomorrow. No, you go to Xiao Ran right now. If you can't win him back, don't you dare come back to this house." Zheng Yu-jun issued a stern ultimatum. "Take your son and get the hell out of my sight. I can't stand looking at either of you right now." "Sis, just go and beg brother-in-law, please. 400 million. 400 million. Zheng Gang tried a softer approach, coaxing her. His chance of becoming a second-generation rich kid all depended on Zheng Wan's ability. Zheng Wan was kicked out by her family. Zheng Gang even grabbed her son and dumped him on the ground outside the door. She was so furious she wanted to scream. What did she do? She had no choice but to go find Xiao Ran. But after knocking on the villa door for ages, Xiao Ran didn't open it. When night fell and there were still no lights on in the villa, she was baffled. Could it be that Xiao Ran didn't live here? Where had he gone? Suching was so big, and Xiao Ran was a tycoon with 400 million. He had countless entertainment options. He could even be traveling the world. How was she supposed to find him? In that moment, Zheng Wan was filled with both hatred and regret. Of course, she didn't regret making Xiao Ran take the fall for her affair and child, but she regretted agreeing to the divorce so quickly. If only she dragged it out for one more day, no, even half a day, she could have gotten at least 200 million. And Xiao Ran? He was at the gym, sweating buckets. He had hired a professional fitness coach and nutritionist. In 3 months, he was determined to completely transform himself and achieve a strong, healthy physique. Wow, Mr. Xiao, your physical condition is excellent, said the fitness coach. Her name was Lu Su, a female coach, and a very beautiful one at that. Why a female coach? The answer was simple. Training guidance inevitably involves some physical contact. Between two men, it could be a bit awkward. But with a woman, especially a beautiful one, there was no problem. Plus, she was more pleasant to look at. Oh, Xiao Ran looked over. Lu Su pointed to various data points, explaining to Xiao Ran, overall, Mr. Xiao, your fitness level is better than 99% of people. And since you said you haven't undergone any training before, I can hardly imagine what heights you could reach after training. She thought for a moment. You could probably become a professional athlete. Xiao Ran was stunned. Was the machine malfunctioning? His body was pretty average. Years of a grueling 996 work schedule had left him with common joint problems like frozen shoulder. How could his physical fitness suddenly surpass 99% of people? Could it be that rebirth improved one's physique? This was great. Xiao Ran smiled. Well, I'm looking forward to it then. Do you think at my age, I still have a chance to represent the country in competitions? I'm afraid not, Lu Su laughed. Unless you can outperform national-level athletes. Huh, they both laughed. The training session began. Indeed, some physical contact was unavoidable, but Xiao Ran made no attempt to intentionally take advantage of her. Any touch was purely accidental. Lu Su was quite pretty, though not quite at Lu Mei's level. But due to her consistent workouts, her body exuded a healthy beauty, especially her butt, which was perfectly round and full, very much like the ample curves often admired in Western women. Xiao Ran didn't dislike it, but he wasn't overly fond of it either. They trained for a while, then rested, continuing like this for a total of 3 hours. Xiao Ran had signed up for Lu Su's private coaching. Each 1-hour session cost 500 yuan, so today's 3 hours of training amounted to 1,500 yuan, a sum unaffordable for an ordinary person. Precisely because of this, Lu Su was naturally very enthusiastic towards a wealthy client like Xiao Ran. Sometimes, when Xiao Ran wouldn't have touched her, she would deliberately brush against him, and she also did her best to show off her full but enlarged breasts in front of him. Her intentions were crystal clear. However, Xiao Ran's mind was entirely preoccupied with the apocalypse. He was in no mood for any recreational activities or flirtations. So, he left as soon as the training was over, leaving Lu Su a bit bewildered. Am I that unattractive? Xiao Ran got home, washed up, and got ready for bed. Still, he checked his stocks first. He was up 6 points today, around 20 million yuan. Not bad. He stretched, then climbed into bed and went to sleep. The night passed. Xiao Ran woke up naturally, had breakfast, and then tweaked a few of his stocks. This would be his main focus for the next 2 months. At 10 o'clock, Lu Mei called. She had officially filed a lawsuit to redivide Xiao Ran and Zheng Wan's marital assets, claiming Zheng Jie wasn't his biological son and demanding Zheng Wan compensate Xiao Ran for emotional distress. In just the last couple of days, He Qian had already had someone investigate Zheng Wan's income. Combined with the financial records Xiao Ran provided, they calculated their total joint income, deducted necessary expenses, and arrived at a claim amount. 500,000 yuan, all told. This sum was trivial to the current Xiao Ran, but for Zheng Wan and Zheng Youjuan's family, it was enormous, enough to make them frantic, even lose sleep. And the kicker was, they were bound to lose the case. It was just a matter of how much they'd have to pay. Xiao Ran nodded. He Qian would naturally handle the court proceedings personally. As the plaintiff, Xiao Ran wouldn't even need to appear. He just had to provide a power of attorney, and He Qian could manage everything. After hanging up with Lu Mei, Xiao Ran received a call from the real estate agent. The contract was ready, and he could go to the housing bureau to transfer the deed. Of course, he had to go. He'd sign the official contract, and then the process would begin. Even though Xiao Ran was paying in full, he still had to wait for the housing bureau's review, which would take at least a few business days. No rush. Jia Yingui would need several days just to draw up the renovation plans, and then materials would need to be purchased. So, even without the property deed in hand, it wasn't a big deal for now. Besides, as the saying goes, if no one reports it, the authorities won't investigate. Starting the renovations quietly wasn't out of the question. Of course, before the cataclysm began, Xiao Ran was still very much willing to abide by the law. After all, this was the last period of peace and order. He ate out and got home a little after 1 p.m. Xiao Ran got busy again. He decided to rent a warehouse to receive supplies. Convenient and discreet. He first searched online, and after narrowing down his options, he found a place he liked and contacted the owner. Since Xiao Ran barely haggled, They quickly reached an agreement. A 6-month contract, but Xiao Ran would pay 3 months rent up front, then another 3 when the time came. After 6 months, Xiao Ran would have the priority to renew the lease. Xiao Ran felt he wasn't getting a bad deal, as he only needed it for 3 months and had indeed only paid 3 months' rent. Some supplies could be stockpiled now, like food. Xiao Ran found a restaurant and ordered 100 tables worth of food at a standard of 3,000 yuan per table. He had to move their stoves and everything to the warehouse to cook on site. It was too late for today, so they scheduled it for tomorrow. For this, he paid a 50,000 yuan deposit, a pittance. The next day, he waited at the warehouse for the restaurant owner. Soon, the owner arrived with his staff. They fired up the stoves and cooked, and by noon, they had finally prepared all 100 tables. After they left, Xiao Ran stored everything, dishes and food alike, into his interdimensional space. Sigh, I'll have to buy new bowls again tomorrow. Xiao Ran chuckled. Stockpiling supplies had one drawback. It used up a lot of bowls. No problem. I'm rich. Xiao Ran had already bought a large quantity of bowls and basins online. A batch would be delivered every day, so he wouldn't need to buy them for the supermarket anymore. For the next few days, Xiao Ran collected 100 tables of banquet food daily, switching restaurants each time to avoid suspicion. The various supplies he bought online were also delivered one by one, all sent to the warehouse. Even spending money so aggressively, he was only managing to spend less than 1,000,000 yuan a day. No matter, once the money from the stock market was out, Xiao Ran would have supplies brought in by the truckload. Spend 2 or even 3 billion yuan in a 30-day blitz. Lu Mei and Lu Susu also messaged Xiao Ran daily. However, Lu Mei remained reserved and proud, acting as if she expected Xiao Ran to pursue her. Lu Susu, on the other hand, after finding out Xiao Ran was the winner of a 500 million yuan prize, became incredibly proactive and eager. Xiao Ran didn't want another marriage, so he didn't respond to their advances. Most importantly, he had a mountain of things to do every day and simply had no time to think about women. Once things settled down and he had more free time, it wouldn't be too late to consider it. Also, his lawsuit had been formally accepted by the court, and the first hearing was scheduled for tomorrow. A day passed. Zheng Wan returned home, feeling utterly exhausted, body and soul. At court today, He Qian presented a mountain of evidence against her, including the paternity test results for Xiao Ran and Zheng Jia, Xiao Ran's income statements, and their annual living expenses. Her lawyer advised her to reach a settlement with Xiao Ran and compensate him 410,000 yuan. Of this, 260,000 yuan was from their marital income, a total of 720,000 yuan, which, after deducting 200,000 yuan for necessary expenses over 4 years, came to 520,000 yuan. Half of that was 260,000 yuan. The remaining 150,000 yuan was for emotional distress, totaling 410,000 yuan. He Qian had initially demanded 300,000 yuan for emotional distress. Most importantly, He Qian stated that Xiao Ran didn't need the money and would donate it all to Project Hope, which would naturally sway the judge in his favor. 410,000 yuan. Zheng Wan's head throbbed. Did she have 410,000 yuan? No. Most of their money had been taken by Zheng Yujun and his wife to subsidize Zheng Gang. But the law was the law. Dare she defy it? Dad, Mom, we're almost certainly going to lose this lawsuit. We'll have to pay Xiao Ran 410,000 yuan, Zheng Wan announced to her parents and younger brother. What? 410,000 yuan? Zheng Yujun immediately jumped up. That bastard. Why doesn't he just rob us? Exactly, Lin, Mei Ying chimed in. How dare he ask for so much? He must be money crazy. Zheng Wan explained. Xiao Ran's and my combined income is about 180,000 yuan a year. Over 4 years, that's 720,000 yuan. Our annual expenses are 50,000 yuan, so minus 200,000 yuan for 4 years, it's 520,000 yuan. Half of that is 260,000 yuan, plus 150,000 yuan for emotional distress. That makes 410,000 yuan. Zheng Yujun fell silent for a moment, then said, Why are you telling us this? It's your marital property. You figure out how to pay him back. Zheng Wan flared up. Dad, you and Mom took almost all of Xiao Ran's and my salary. I have less than 30,000 yuan on hand. Where am I supposed to get 410,000 yuan? Zheng Yujun shook his head. That's not my problem. Your brother is getting married soon. He needs money. Besides, what can Xiao Ran do if you don't pay him back? You think he'd dare come knocking? If he dare show his face, I'll chase him out with a broom. Zheng Wan was seething. Brother, is Zheng Gang all you two ever see? Was I born just to slave away for him? It's been like this since we were kids. All the good things always went to Zheng Gang. 1.I adopted. Well, you still have that lover of yours, don't you? Lin Meiying retorted, showing her daughter no consideration whatsoever. Go ask him for money. We've raised his son for all these years. Doesn't he owe us some compensation? Zheng Gang immediately perked up. Yes, yes. Make him pay us a few $100,000. That'll be enough for me to get married. Zheng Yujun chimed in. Doctors make a lot of money, right? And they get those under-the-table red envelopes, too. Get at least $500,000 from him, or he can forget about this son. Zheng Gang exclaimed, jumping to his feet, instantly energized by the talk of money. Zheng Yujun then offered another terrible idea to his daughter. Go find that lover of yours right now. Take your son with you. Tell him if he doesn't give us $500,000, you'll dump the boy on him. Why should I raise someone else's kid? Dad, are you kicking me out again? Zheng Wan asked, her voice filled with disbelief. This was the second time. If you don't bring back $500,000, you're no daughter of mine. I'll disown you. Zheng Yujun pushed his daughter out the door again and had Lin Meiying put their grandson outside too. Dad, Mom. Zheng Wan pounded on the door, but the people inside pretended not to hear. A neighbor, hearing the commotion, opened their door to look. Unable to bear the shame, Zheng Wan picked up her son and walked away. Once out of the apartment building, Zheng Wan sank down, utterly drained. To make matters worse, Zheng Jie started acting up, and she couldn't stop herself from yelling at him. Mentally and physically exhausted, she called Zhang Zi home. He was her only ray of hope, her only support. However, when she told him about being kicked out and needing $410,000 for compensation, asking if he could lend her some money, Zhang Zihong replied, Warner, you know my wife controls my finances, so I can't help you. Besides, since your parents took the money, shouldn't you be asking them for it back? And I've already promised my wife I wouldn't contact you again. Please don't call or WeChat me anymore. Do. The line went dead. Zheng Wan wore an expression of utter disbelief. She sat on the ground, motionless. After a full half hour, a vicious glint flickered in her eyes. You were heartless first, so don't blame me for being ruthless. At worst, we'll all go down together. A day passed. Xiao Ran was in the gym, sweating profusely. After nearly 10 days of training, he was already showing some results. His once smooth stomach was starting to show definition, though it would take more time to achieve a clear 8-pack. Lu Susu watched him, growing impatient. 10 days, and Xiao Ran still hadn't taken the bait? She was practically ready to strip naked to seduce him. But Xiao Ran seemed completely oblivious to her charms, which frustrated her immensely. His phone rang. Xiao Ran stopped his workout, picked up his phone, and glanced at the screen. It was Lu Mei. He answered. Hello, Lawyer Lu. Lu Mei's magnetic voice came through the line. Something big has happened. I'm all ears, Xiao Ran said. Your ex-wife's family, knowing Zheng Wan was bound to lose the lawsuit, kicked her and Zheng Jie out, telling her to scrape together the money herself. Desperate, Zheng Wan took her son to the hospital this morning and handed him over directly to Zhang Zihong. Lu Mei continued. Turns out, when Zhang Zihong's wife heard the news, she stormed into the hospital. Probably because she's infertile, she got very agitated upon seeing Zhang Jie. And that little brat actually pointed at Zhang Zihong's wife's nose and cursed her. This made Zhang Zihong's wife even more agitated, and she accidentally pushed Zhang Jie down the stairs. The child died on the spot. After the incident, to seek forgiveness from the victim's family and get a lighter sentence for Zhang Zihong's wife, his family offered $1 million in compensation. Zheng Wan has accepted it. But Zhang Zihong is in deep trouble. He quickly divorced his wife, got fired from the hospital, and his former father-in-law clearly despises him now. He's in for a rough ride. Xiao Ran was surprised. So the Zheng family, no, Zheng Wan, actually got the money this way. Fine, he thought. Then I'll take my time dealing with you all. All right, I understand, he said and hung up. He didn't dwell on it and resumed his workout. Afterward, he strode off, much to Lu Susu's disappointed gaze. At the Zheng household, seeing Zheng Wan emerge from her room to get a takeout delivery, Zheng Gang immediately scurried over. Sis, if you wanted something to eat, you just had to tell me. I'd have bought it for you right away. Why order takeout? It's unhygienic and takes so long to arrive. Yeah, just let Zheng Gang get it for you. Zheng Yu Jun chimed in. Their daughter now had $1 million in compensation money. Even after deducting the part owed to Xiao Ran, she'd still have nearly $600,000 left. Zheng Gang was counting on that $600,000 to get married. Zheng Wan didn't even glance at the father and son. She took her takeout and walked straight into her bedroom. Shit. Zheng Gang couldn't help but curse. He had been groveling for 2 days, but Zhongwan hadn't shown him the slightest bit of warmth. Watch your mouth. That's your sister. Zheng Yujun smacked his son on the head, though not hard. Think about it. We kicked your sister out and disowned her, and now we've invited her back just for the money. Who would be happy in her shoes? You need to be more patient. Coach your sister properly. Otherwise, you can figure out how to get your marriage money yourself. Zheng Gang hung his head and nodded in agreement. Inside her room, Zhongwan silently ate her takeout, her thoughts in turmoil, her eyes cold and dark. Everyone thought Zhang Jie's death was due to the impulsiveness of Zhang Zihong's wife. But was that the real truth? Of course not. She was the one who had called Zhang Zihong's wife. During that call, she had hurled the most vicious insults at her, especially attacking her for being infertile. That's what made Zhang Zihong's wife lose her mind and storm to the hospital. Not only that, but she had also shown her son a photo of Zhang Zihong's wife and instructed him to call her a barren woman who couldn't have children the moment he saw her. That's why Zhang Zihong's wife had completely lost control, leading to the tragedy. Zhang Zihong, you betrayed me first, she said through gritted teeth, shedding a few crocodile tears. After all, Zhang Jie was her own flesh and blood. But then, a smile spread across her face. Now that Zhang Jie is gone, the barrier between Xiao Ran and me is also gone. All I have to do is pursue him again, promise to have his child, and he'll definitely get back together with me. 400 million. She would absolutely not give up such a huge sum of money. Absolutely not. Xiao Ran had spent the whole day dealing with social engagements and deliveries before heading back to his residential complex. Just yesterday, Jia Yungue had shown him the renovation plans, and since Xiao Ran had also received the property deed, the work was already underway. Xiao Ran had even transferred another 20 million to Jia Yungue, urging him to buy materials and start immediately. Xiao Ran was, of course, returning to his rented apartment, 1502. He definitely needed the elevator, and, as luck would have it, it was waiting on the first floor. He stepped inside. Just as the doors were about to close, a woman hurried over, repeatedly mashing the up button. The doors slowly reopened. A fashionably dressed woman entered, a fragrant scent wafting from her, the kind of high-end perfume that was refreshing yet not overpowering. Her looks were captivating, exuding a radiant charm, so alluring it seemed to brighten the elevator car. The woman was about 168 centimeters tall, not short by any means, but Xiao Ran, at 178 centimeters, was still a good half-head taller. She pressed the button for the 17th floor. Neither of them spoke. Only waves of her perfume filled the small space. Xiao Ran stood behind her, admiring the mature beauty's curvaceous figure. In the past, he would have strictly averted his gaze, but his personality had done a complete 180, and now, it truly was just pure appreciation. The woman, observing Xiao Ran in the mirror-like elevator wall, suddenly turned around. Huh, she said. You're that Xiao 500 mil, right? Xiao 500 mil? Xiao Ran blinked, surprised. I already have a nickname, so soon? He couldn't help but chuckle. I am indeed Xiao Ran. The woman covered her mouth with a light, charming laugh. But with a figure as fine as hers, even this slight movement caused a captivating ripple through her body, her ample chest akin to waves surging, making it hard for anyone to look away. She cleared her throat slightly. Hello, my name is Han Yun. However, the ride from the 1st to the 15th floor was short. Ding! The elevator arrived. Xiao Ran nodded to Han Yun and stepped out. He quickly forgot the little interlude. Walking along the open-air corridor to his apartment, he unlocked the door, went inside, and plopped onto the sofa. Just as he was about to turn on the TV, he remembered he'd ordered takeout on his way home. It should have arrived by now. He checked the app. It indeed showed delivered. But when Xiao Ran looked outside his door, the food was nowhere to be seen. He contacted the delivery rider, who insisted it had been delivered and had even taken a photo as proof. So where had it gone? Stolen? Possible. Xiao Ran recalled stories online about takeout theft, never imagining it would happen to him. Reorder? Yes, he definitely had to reorder. Even if he found the original, he wouldn't dare eat it now. But there was no way he was just going to let the takeout thief get away with it. He reordered his food and then went to find the building management. After he explained the situation, they helped him pull up the security footage. Sure enough, at 5:07 p.m., the delivery rider had dropped off the food, snapped a photo, and left. A little while later, the door of the neighboring apartment, 1501, opened. A young boy came out, played in the corridor for a bit, then zeroed in on the takeout. He glanced left and right, then suddenly snatched it and ducked back into his apartment. Case closed. Xiao Ran, accompanied by the building management staff, went back and knocked on 1501's door. Who is it? An impatient voice called from inside. Building management. We need to talk to you. The property manager was leading the group personally. After all, Xiao Ran had not only bought the complex's only villa, but was also the winner of a 500 million prize. The manager couldn't help but want to curry favor. Footsteps approached, and the door opened to reveal an old man, who looked at the property manager with a puzzled expression. What is it? The property manager smiled. Your grandson. It should be your grandson, right? Stole the takeout from 1502 next door. Bullshit, a loud shout erupted. An aggressive-looking older woman, Granny Cheen, stormed over and launched into a tirade against the property manager. Which eye of yours saw that? My Xiao Kong is such a good boy. How could he possibly steal someone's takeout? I'm warning you. Don't you dare spout nonsense, or I'll smash up your management office. The property manager's smile didn't falter. Granny Cheen, we're really not falsely accusing your grandson. I have the surveillance footage right here. Take a look. He took out his phone and played a video, a screen recording from the security room. What are you showing me? Unexpectedly, Granny Cheen didn't even glance at it, simply shoving the manager's phone aside. Now, get the hell out of here. Don't disturb our dinner, or I'll call the police and report you for trespassing. Bang! The door slammed shut. From behind it, Granny Cheen's voice could be heard scolding an older man, presumably Grandpa Cheen. Next time something like this happens, just chase them away and close the door immediately. What's there to talk about? This infuriated the property manager. Your grandson stole the takeout. The evidence is irrefutable, and you're still this arrogant? This is too much. Mr. Xiao, I'm very sorry, the property manager said. We'll continue to communicate with this family, and we'll definitely make them compensate you. Someone like Xiao 500 mil was, of course, a high-value resident who could enhance the complex's overall image. But as for Granny Cheen's family, Xiao Ran thought for a moment. All right, I'll leave it to you then. He returned to his apartment and started mulling things over. What good could the building management really do? He'd have to handle this himself. He went online and searched what to do if a bratty kid steals your takeout. Looking at the search results, some answers were serious, while others were clearly jokes. I mean, who would order 10,000 yuan worth of takeout? I can. Xiao Ran chuckled to himself. The money had to be spent within 3 months, or it would become worthless paper, just a string of numbers locked away in a bank. Right, time to make a plan. The bratty kid had stolen and eaten the takeout without any punishment, not even a scolding. This was practically an encouragement, so he would definitely do it again. I'll give you a chance, Xiao Ran thought. Before long, his reordered takeout arrived, and Xiao Ran began to eat. After finishing, he went downstairs, planning to buy some fruit from the fruit store. He mused that in the future, with almost all global vegetation predicted to be wiped out, fresh fruit would be an impossible luxury. Coincidentally, just as he stepped out, the door to 1501 opened, and Granny Cheen emerged with that bratty kid, Xiao Kong. Upon seeing Xiao Ran, the kid looked a little guilty, but Granny Cheen was as ferocious as ever. I'm telling you, Granny Cheen started grumbling aggressively. You're a man with hundreds of millions. How can you be so petty? So what if we ate one of your takeouts? To you, isn't that like a drop in the ocean? And you still had the nerve to go to the building management. She continued. We're all neighbors here, practically from the same village. Don't make things ugly, or I won't let you off. Xiao Ran chuckled. The truly shameless are invincible, as the saying goes. There was definitely some truth to that. Your grandson stole my takeout, and you have the gall to justify it? Warn me? Threaten me? Xiao Ran was tempted to slap them, but he reconsidered. Can't let a moment of anger ruin a bigger plan. I have my own way of dealing with you. If I act fierce now and scare the brat off from stealing again, wouldn't that waste my carefully laid plans? So, he said nothing and silently walked into the elevator. This made Annie Cheen quite smug. The brat's eyes darted around, as if he were scheming something. Ding! The elevator reached the first floor. Xiao Ran walked out, with Annie Cheen and the brat following. He could still hear Annie Cheen saying, Xiao Bao, take his takeout next time too. He's rich, so it's only right we eat some of his food. Okay. With the adult's encouragement, the brat was naturally even more fearless. A faint smile appeared on Xiao Ran's face. This is exactly what I want, for you to push your luck. He went to a fruit store and bought a huge pile of fruit. It didn't matter if he couldn't finish it all. He could just toss it into his interdimensional space, where it would stay fresh forever. Back home, he washed an apple and started eating it. He didn't know how long this global catastrophe would last, so it was possible that fruit might not be seen again for hundreds, even thousands, or tens of thousands of years. He had to stock up. Yes, enough to last several lifetimes. The night passed. A new day dawned. Xiao Ran first went to an extremely high-end restaurant and requested a custom takeout order. The lunch he ordered was incredibly expensive, using many imported ingredients. The top-grade caviar alone cost 20,000 yuan. All told, the lunch came to a staggering 80,000 yuan. Even so, Xiao Ran still felt it was a bargain. But they had already used all the high-end ingredients available. There was no way to make it more expensive. Fine, 80,000 wasn't a small sum. And what was the most potent quality of these ingredients? They were powerful aphrodisiacs. So, the restaurant manager couldn't help but look Xiao Ran up and down. Just how many dates has he got lined up today? Better not overdo it and, well, end up completely spent. Xiao Ran readily paid the 80,000 yuan, wrote down the address, kept the receipt, and left. He went about his usual routine, collecting supplies fit for 100 banquets, gathering a day's worth of deliveries, then called it a day and returned to his residential complex. Meanwhile, at the Qin residence, the brat hadn't been scolded for stealing the takeout yesterday. On the contrary, he'd been encouraged. So today, he was naturally eyeing the neighbor's place again. When the delivery driver dropped off the food and left, he darted out, grabbed an impressive-looking food container, and dashed into his own home. Annie Qin was inside and smiled immediately when she saw the brat walk in with a large food container. That Xiao Ran actually dared to complain to property management yesterday. Uffed. So what if we took one of your takeouts? Was it really such a big deal? So, today we'll eat another one of yours as a lesson for you. Old man Qin, however, said, this is someone else's takeout. It's not right for us to eat it, is it? He has so much money. What's wrong with eating a little of it? Auntie Qin said dismissively. Besides, where does lottery money come from? Isn't it donated by us common folk, 1 yuan at a time? So it's ill-gotten gains. Why can't we eat it? Wow, a big lobster. The brat had already unwrapped it and cheered. The food container had 8 compartments, each holding a different dish. Annie Qin and Old Man Qin couldn't help but salivate at the sight. A large lobster and some unidentifiable meat. In short, it looked exquisite and clearly very high class. This must be worth a lot of money, Old Man Qin said, starting to have second thoughts. If we eat it, will there be trouble? Auntie Qin thought for a moment, then dismissed his concerns. What does it matter? A few hundred yuan at most. Is he going to call the cops on us? The kid took it by mistake. No matter how you spin it, what's the problem? Thinking this over, Old Man Qin said no more. The three of them began to eat. This is delicious. It really is good. This meat is so incredibly tasty. The brat couldn't help but ask, Grandma, can I go get it again tomorrow? No problem, Annie Qin replied. They happily devoured the grand meal, and after half a day, Xiao Ran still hadn't come knocking to ask for it back. Annie Qin couldn't help but smile contemptuously. He must have been scared off yesterday. Today's meal was truly delicious. I hope Xiao Ran orders it a few more times. He wouldn't dare say anything anyway. However, after a little while, Annie Qin started to feel hot and bothered, and Old Man Qin felt the same. They exchanged a look, told their grandson, Qin Kong, to watch TV, and went into their room. After a while, the noises stopped, but then started up again shortly after, then quieted down, repeating this cycle. When the Qin son and daughter-in-law came home, they found Qin Kong alone in the living room watching TV. His eyes were squinting as if he'd been watching for a long time. This naturally made the daughter-in-law furious. She pushed open Annie Qin's bedroom door, ready to scold them. This is how you look after your grandson? Oh my God! She immediately blushed and quickly backed out. What's wrong? The son asked. Your parents. She couldn't continue. How shameless. It's not even evening, and they're already at it, with Qin Kong sitting right here in the living room. Son, quick, call 120. Something's happened to your father. Annie Qin's terrified voice came from the room. What's wrong with Dad? The son was completely bewildered. Auntie Qin stammered for a moment before saying, Your father, he's been aroused since this afternoon, and he just fainted. A stroke during sex? The son couldn't believe it. His old man was at such an advanced age. How could something like this happen? No wonder his wife had backed out, blushing. He quickly made the call. A short while later, the 120 ambulance arrived. A bit after that, Old Man Qin and Annie Qin were wheeled out together. Although they were covered with a sheet, one could vaguely see they were naked, and the fact that they were carried out together. What did that imply? Anyone who wasn't a fool could guess. The residential complex was only so big. How could anything be kept secret? This is hilarious. That old Qin couple ran into trouble while they were at it. He had a stroke, and they even called 120. They look like they're only in their 30s. Surely they wouldn't have a stroke like that. It wasn't their son and daughter-in-law. It was the old couple. What? They must be over 60, right? Causing such a scandal at their age. They'll have to hide their faces whenever they walk around the complex from now on. Still, it's a question whether old man Chin will even pull through. Serve them right. That old Chin couple are nasty pieces of work anyway. Yeah, it'd be best if they both croaked in the hospital. There was no shortage of wagging tongues. Hearing the distant wail of an ambulance siren, Xiao Ran gave a faint smile and hailed a cab. Where to? The police station. He was going to file a report. When the officer learned Xiao Ran had a takeout order stolen, he chuckled. Young man, you can report a stolen takeout, but I'd suggest you talk to building management, check the security footage, and then go talk to the person who took it. They're your neighbors. Some things are best resolved privately, the officer said. Xiao Ran nodded. Actually, after the first time my takeout was stolen, I did go to building management. I even found the culprit, my next-door neighbor's grandson. But his family not only refused to compensate me for my loss, they also insulted me. Today, I ordered takeout again, and their grandson stole it again. Hearing this, the officer's expression turned serious. That's going too far. Stealing, refusing to compensate, insulting the victim, and then doing it again? No wonder Xiao Ran had come to report it. You can't just bully honest people like that, the officer thought. He then said, all right, I'll go with you. I'll give them a stern talking to. Xiao Ran smiled. There might be a bit more to it than that. This takeout order was quite expensive. How expensive could it be? The officer, unconcerned, casually asked, how much? 80,000. Puffed. The officer, who had just taken a sip of tea, spat it all out. Luckily, he turned his head in time, spraying it all over his monitor. He coughed repeatedly. How much? Had he misheard, or had Xiao Ran misspoken? Xiao Ran took out the receipt and handed it over. The officer took it, glanced at it, and his expression immediately turned strange. It really was 80,000. But would anyone order an 80,000 yuan takeout? For that much money, couldn't you just eat at the restaurant? Then again, how much someone spends on takeout is their business. There's no law against ordering takeout over a certain price, right? However, this changed things. This was serious. This wasn't just a stolen meal anymore. It was the theft of a valuable item, on par with gold or jewelry. The officer looked up at Xiao Ran. I need to go to this Taifang Tower to verify this. Xiao Ran nodded. No problem. I can go with you. The officer stood up. Officer Liu, come with me. And so, the three of them set off for Taifang Tower. On the way, Officer Liu was astounded to hear that Xiao Ran had ordered an 80,000 yuan takeout. Good heavens, that one meal is worth my entire year's salary. Officer Liu exclaimed. The other officer, surnamed Zhua and nearly 50, glanced at Xiao Ran, wondering to himself, did Xiao Ran order such an expensive meal intending for the neighbor's bratty kid to steal it? Otherwise, this is all too coincidental. But regardless of whether it was a setup, stealing is wrong, especially when the value exceeds 3,000 yuan, making it a criminal offense. Let's go to Taifang Tower first, he thought. When they arrived, the restaurant manager came out. Upon seeing Xiao Ran, he immediately became very enthusiastic, calling out Mr. Xiao repeatedly. And when he learned that Xiao Ran's takeout had been stolen and that Xiao Ran had brought 2 police officers to verify its price, he readily obliged, describing the ingredients to the officers. They were either imported or top-tier domestic delicacies, like Yangtze sori. For an 80,000 yuan takeout, the cost of ingredients alone was over 60,000. They really didn't make much profit. A gross profit margin of less than 30%. That's indeed not much. But this did indeed prove that the takeout Xiao Ran ordered was worth over 60,000 yuan, and he had paid 80,000 for it. Things had escalated. All right, leave the rest to us, officers was said to Xiao Ran. Xiao Ran had submitted comprehensive evidence, proving both the value of the takeout and providing the building's security footage. So the police's next step was to visit the Chin family. The child had taken it by mistake, and being only 7 or 8 years old, couldn't be criminally charged. Therefore, if the Chin family was willing to compensate, the case could be closed. The question was, when the Chin family found out they had to pay 80,000 yuan for a takeout meal they ate, would they willingly cough up the money? This was going to be troublesome. Xiao Ran smiled. Okay. He decided to have a meal at Taifang Tower right then. After eating, he went to find Lu Su to work out. Before the extreme cold weather arrived, he wanted to improve his physical fitness as much as possible. Municipal Hospital, North Wing. After emergency treatment, old Mr. Chin of the Chin family was finally revived, and the immediate danger had passed for the elderly couple. Since their lives were no longer in danger, the family naturally started to think, why had old Mr. Chin suddenly become so randy? Just then, a doctor came over and told them the blood test results. Old Mr. Chen's blood contained a large amount of aphrodisiac substances, which explained his prolonged arousal. How could that be? Old Mr. Chen didn't usually take any tonics or supplements. Could it be that takeout? Mrs. Chen suddenly remembered, her face instantly contorting with rage. Xiao Ran, you bastard! I'll make you pay for this. Xiao Ran. The Chen family's son was taken aback. How could this involve Xiao? 500 million. Mrs. Chen hesitated for a moment, then told him about her grandson stealing the takeout. It must be him. The Chen family's son, not blaming his own son for stealing in the first place, flew into a rage. How vicious. To actually poison the takeout. I'm going to sue him and make him lose everything. Speaking of making him lose everything, the three adults exchanged glances, a greedy look appearing on all their faces. The man had won a 500 million prize. They'd make him pay it all out. The Chen family's son picked up the phone to call the police. But just 10 minutes after he hung up, he saw two police officers approaching. Such a fast response time. The three Chens hurried to greet them. Are you Chen Kang's family? It was Officers Zhua and Liu who had arrived. What a strange way to address us, the son thought. He said hesitantly, I'm Chen Kang's father. I was the one who just called the police. Called the police? Officer Zhua was somewhat surprised. Aren't you the guardians of the child who stole the takeout? Why would you call the police? All right, tell us your situation first. Officer Zhua gestured for the three Chens to speak. Mrs. Chen rushed to speak first, explaining the situation and insisting that Xiao Ran had deliberately poisoned the food. This rather baffled the two officers. So, you're saying that Xiao Ran poisoned the takeout he ordered for himself, with the intention of harming you? Officers was summarized. Yes, that's exactly it. Mrs. Chen nodded. Officers would chuckled. The prosecutor's office would never accept such a claim, and the court wouldn't hear it. Of course, you're free to hire a lawyer and sue Xiao Ran yourselves. That's your right. We're here today to investigate the matter of the stolen takeout. Actually, there's no need for much investigation. You just admitted to it. That simplifies things. Since a child stole the takeout, you just need to compensate for the cost of the meal. The three Chens were furious. It was obviously Xiao Ran who poisoned it. They had figured out something so clear. Were these police officers blind or stupid? Fine, we'll pay for the meal, but Xiao Ran also has to compensate us for medical expenses, lost wages, and emotional distress, said the Chen family's daughter-in-law. There was no way around it. To make Xiao Ran pay, they first had to admit they stole his takeout. So, they had to pay for it, like it or not. But how much could takeout cost? They were going to make Xiao Ran pay until he was bankrupt. Officers was smiled. All right then. The total is 80,000 yuan. All three Chens looked as if they'd spat out their drinks. The three members of the Chen family were practically jumping in anger. How is that possible? 80,000 for a takeout order? You might as well be robbing people, the Chen family son exclaimed. Officer, you can't let that Xiao Ran kid rip us off like this. What kind of takeout costs 80,000? Officers he thought to himself that he'd been shocked too when he first heard it. He smiled and said, it really is 80,000. There's an invoice as proof. We also investigated the restaurant, and the raw ingredients alone cost over 60,000. The restaurant has to pay taxes and make a small profit, so it comes out to 80,000. Even though he explained it, the three Chens still refused to believe it. But when they cross-referenced the dishes listed, they were left speechless. Indeed, he wasn't just making things up. Granny Chen finally felt a pang of regret. If only she'd known, she wouldn't have let her grandson steal the takeout. What now? Xiao Ran had reported it. The police had taken the case, and, crucially, they had confessed. No, wait. As long as they insisted Xiao Ran had poisoned the food, they could definitely make him pay until he was bankrupt. After all, old man Chen lying in the emergency room bed was a fact. We admit we stole the takeout, but that just proves Xiao Ran was the one who poisoned it. Granny Chen clamored. Officers was said sternly. First, Xiao Ran never touched the takeout from start to finish, so there's no possibility of him poisoning it. Second, the so-called poison was actually a health supplement. Xiao Ran is a young man. It's perfectly normal for him to take supplements. It just happened to be stolen by you, he continued. Although I'm not a lawyer, I can tell you in all seriousness that as long as Xiao Ran insists the takeout was ordered for himself, you won't be able to get a single cent from him for hospital fees. Hearing him speak with such certainty, the three Chens were dumbfounded. How much had old man Chen's medical bills cost so far? Over 5,000. That was a small matter. The crucial thing was that they couldn't get compensation from Xiao Ran. They had originally planned to fleece him for a large sum. So, In total, how much would they have to pay for their brat's act of stealing takeout? 90,000, perhaps even more. Granny Chin collapsed onto the floor and started making a scene. The police are helping criminals bully our family, young and old. Everyone, come and judge for yourselves. This attracted a crowd of onlookers, but what was the use? It was only bringing more humiliation upon themselves. Xiao Ran didn't go to the hospital to rub it in their faces. After all, someone like Granny Chin wouldn't listen to reason and would surely throw a hysterical fit. Why bother arguing with a shrew? Everything could be settled thoroughly after the apocalypse. Then, he just killed them. He anticipated that the Chin family would come looking for him after they returned, either to cause a scene or play pitiful, neither of which he wanted to deal with. So, he went to a hotel to avoid being woken up in the middle of a good night's sleep. His guess was correct. Granny Chin did indeed storm back to the residential complex that night. Bang, bang, bang. She hammered on Xiao Ran's door, waking up people upstairs and downstairs. When they told Granny Chin to keep it down, she couldn't care less and snapped at them to mind their own business and go back to sleep. This incurred the wrath of the crowd, and she ended up getting beaten. As a result, she too was sent to the hospital, conveniently ending up in the same room as Old Man Chin. Perfect. Xiao Ran, of course, knew nothing about all this. The next day, as planned, he went to a shooting range. Time to collect bullets. Pistol rounds were 10 yuan each, rifle rounds 20. Xiao Ran naturally used a rifle, an automatic one at that. He directly prepaid 500,000 yuan and started shooting. Rat-tat-tat. The sound of gunfire erupted. Xiao Ran aimed carelessly. Anyway, the bullets would be collected by a spatial gate after flying 2 meters. In full auto mode, a magazine emptied incredibly fast. Soon, the barrel became scorching hot. Switch guns continue. He played for 5 hours and spent nearly 400,000 yuan. This meant he had collected 20,000 bullets. 20,000. If he could practice accurately firing bullets from his alternate dimension, that would be enough to kill 20,000 targets. Incredible. Xiao Ran didn't continue because even with earplugs, 5 straight hours of gunfire made his head buzz. And every shot had recoil, making his shoulder socket ache painfully. He'd rest tomorrow and find a new range the day after to collect more bullets. He couldn't keep going to the same one. Although it was an outdoor range where it was normal for bullets to be lost in the dirt, 20,000 bullets, all missing their mark. Best not to arouse suspicion. The apocalypse was still over 2 months away. That evening, Xiao Ran returned to his rented apartment. And what did he find? His door had been smeared with feces. No need to guess, it was definitely the Chin family's doing. Xiao Ran went to the property management to check the surveillance footage. However, the Chins had gotten craftier this time. They first covered the camera from a blind spot with a bag before doing the deed. So, the cameras didn't capture the Chins covering the camera, let alone them throwing the feces. This was blatantly playing dirty. Xiao Ran sneered. He immediately called the police. Finding the culprits was a job for professionals. Then, he found the neighbors living on the floor below the Chins, gave them a sum of money, and asked them to do one thing: install a ceiling thumper on their ceiling. After that, this family temporarily moved into a hotel. What's a ceiling thumper? As the name implies, it's a device that creates vibrations and loud noises on the floor above. Thump, thump, thump. If it starts banging in the middle of the night, you'd wake up no matter how soundly you were sleeping. It could be connected to Wi-Fi and controlled remotely by phone. Xiao Ran smiled. Starting tonight, the Chin family could forget about getting any good sleep. He didn't let the Chin family disrupt his preparations. He continued playing the stock market and collecting banquets. Just 3 days later, the Chins couldn't take it anymore. They contacted Xiao Ran through property management, expressing their willingness to compensate him and clean his door. Xiao Ran's life was quite monotonous, playing the stocks, exercising, collecting banquets, gathering bullets, and purchasing supplies. Everything proceeded in an orderly manner. Additionally, he dedicated a full day to practicing attacks with a spatial gate out in the wild. It was all about practicing his aim, how to make bullets flying out of it accurately hit their targets. After wasting about 1,000 rounds, he could achieve 100% accuracy within 2 meters, 90% within 5 meters, and 60% within 10 meters. He didn't continue further because bullets were precious, not expensive, but difficult to acquire. Sioux City only had a few shooting ranges, and if he switched again, he'd have to go to another city. His new compound Bao had arrived. When he had free time, he would shoot arrows into a spatial gate, and then use those stored arrows to practice his aim. The destructive power wasn't particularly great, so he could even practice within his residential complex, as long as no one saw him. With over 2 months left until the apocalypse, he could practice slowly. And so, a month passed by quickly. The villa renovations were in full swing, progressing as expected. Xiao Ran's stock account had grown from 350 million to 1 billion. He withdrew a portion to pay for the villa renovations, used a small amount to continue purchasing supplies, and left the bulk of the money in the stock market to keep compounding. It wasn't time to withdraw it all yet. Oh right, Xiao Ran also bought a car. Xiao Ran bought a Mercedes G-Wagon. It wasn't cheap, over 2 million, but then he splurged another 5 million plus on custom modifications. The glass had to be bulletproof, the tires swapped out. In short, it needed to withstand the impact of a hailstorm, because Xiao Ran planned to venture out during the initial phase of the apocalypse. Why go out when it was so dangerous? For resources. Things like gasoline and diesel weren't something you could just buy in bulk these days, even with money. So, Xiao Ran had no choice but to wait until after the apocalypse to scavenge them for free. That's why the vehicle's toughness and airtightness were paramount. Modifying the vehicle wasn't a quick job, so he'd have to wait over a month to get it. In any case, it would definitely be ready before the apocalypse began. Xiao Ran returned to his residential complex and headed for the elevators. A man, around 30, was waiting there. He was actually quite handsome but looked disheveled. Stubble on his chin, mismatched buttons, reeking of alcohol, and clearly sleep-deprived, with heavy dark circles under his eyes. He shot Xiao Ran a glance, a flicker of envy in his eyes, before tilting his chin up, as if to make a point. "Do I know you?" Xiao Ran couldn't be bothered with him. Ding! The elevator arrived. They both stepped inside, each pressing their desired floor. Xiao Ran noticed the man press 17. The 17th floor. Same as that stunning young woman, Han Yun. And while there were 4 units per floor, unless an elevator was already on its way up, most people would wait rather than take one that wasn't already heading their way. Could he be Han Yun's husband? However, just as the elevator doors were closing, a hand shot out, stopping them. The doors slid open again, and 4 men barged in. Their visible skin was covered in tattoos. One even sported an earring, practically screaming thug with his entire demeanor. Upon seeing them, the booze-reeking man visibly tensed, fear flashing in his eyes. He tried to back away, but the elevator car was too small, and he was quickly pressed against the wall. The man with the earring canceled the already selected floors, then planted himself by the doors, preventing them from closing. "Ha! When are you going to pay up?" A man with a prominent beer belly snarled, stepping in front of the booze-reeking man. He was clearly the leader of the group. The booze-reeking man, so arrogant when he'd eyed Xiao Ran earlier, now looked like a mouse cornered by a cat in front of Beer Belly, trembling from head to toe. "Be boss who? Just give me a couple more days. I swear, I'll pay you back." "More time? How many times have I given you more time?" Beer Belly sneered, slapping the man's face with sharp smack sounds. The booze-reeking man didn't dare dodge, merely whimpering and begging. Xiao Ran sighed. "I don't care about your debts or collections, but what's the deal with holding up the elevator? If you have a problem, take it outside. Don't inconvenience others," he stated. "Fuck off." Beer Belly roared at Xiao Ran, his other hand still pressing the debtor's face. Would Xiao Ran be scared? If he were, he'd have already backed out of the elevator without a word. If this were the apocalypse, a single thought from him could have killed these men several times over. Of course, this wasn't the apocalypse. If he used bullets from his subspace storage to gun them down, he'd land in jail and have to explain the origin of the bullets, an immense hassle. But even without bullets, he wasn't afraid. After a month of intense training, the results were already evident. His physique, already surpassing 99% of the population, had now reached an even higher level. 1 against 4? He figured it'd be a piece of cake. Even if you were tenants here, you'd have no right to kick anyone out, and you're clearly not. Xiao Ran shook his head. "If anyone's getting out, it's you lot. Hurry up, you've wasted enough of my time." "Shit," Beer Belly spat. Seeing their boss enraged, his 3 cronies glared fiercely at Xiao Ran. The thug with the earring lunged, reaching for Xiao Ran's collar. Thwack! Xiao Ran's fist connected, and earring doubled over, dropping to his knees and retching. Seeing Xiao Ran actually fight back, Beer Belly and his 2 remaining underlings, furious, threw punches at him. Hood. A brief, messy brawl later, Beer Belly and his 3 goons found themselves kicked and tossed out of the elevator one by one. As for Xiao Ran, he had taken a few hits himself, but his robust physique meant a few punches were no big deal, just a little painful. Too few real fights, not enough experience, Xiao Ran mused. Otherwise, I should have taken fewer hits, maybe none at all. Besides, this elevator is too damn small. no room to dodge or maneuver. This time, no one was blocking the elevator. The doors closed swiftly, and Xiao Ran pressed the button for the 15th floor. Don't think I'll thank you just because you helped me. The booze-reeking man suddenly spat. I didn't ask for your help. What kind of talk is that? Xiao Ran glanced at him, thinking, I don't even know you. Why so hostile? Unless it's resentment of the rich. It dawned on Xiao Ran. The man stank of booze and was clearly drowning in debt. He was obviously having a rough time. Meanwhile, everyone in the complex knew Xiao Ran had won a 500 million jackpot. Naturally, this guy would resent him. That would also explain the initial envy in the man's eyes, quickly followed by disdain. He was probably silently cursing Xiao Ran for being a low-class upstart. Xiao Ran gave a knowing smirk, deciding to twist the knife. How much do you owe them? The booze-soaked man flinched as if struck a raw nerve and clammed up. How about this? I'll press the first floor button for you. Those four should still be down there, Xiao Ran continued, his voice casual. The man trembled again, fear stark on his face. Xiao Ran then said coolly, Look, I didn't step in specifically for you, but I did end up helping you. It's one thing not to say thank you, but to lash out at me like that? That's not right. You owe me an apology. With that, he moved his finger towards the first floor button. He genuinely didn't mind going back down and tossing the man out to his creditors. The booze-soaked man wilted. Sorry, he mumbled. Can't hear you, Xiao Ran said flatly. Sorry. The man forced out, louder this time, feeling utterly humiliated. But after seeing Xiao Ran's combat skills, he wouldn't dare try anything. All he could do was clench his fists, his heart seething with impotent rage. Xiao Ran sneered. Lucky for you it's now. If this were the apocalypse, I'd put a bullet in you, and you'd die for nothing. Ding! The elevator arrived at the 15th floor. Xiao Ran stepped out. The elevator doors closed again. Thump! He immediately heard a muffled sound from inside. Probably the booze-soaked man kicking the elevator wall, venting his frustration and anger. Hey, not worth my time. Just a nobody. If he doesn't learn his place, Xiao Ran thought darkly, when the apocalypse comes, I'll use food to lure his wife and screw her right in front of him. The thought of Han Yun's mature allure did pique Xiao Ran's interest. She must be his wife, right?